see some kills on the Azir and on the Pantheon that weren't quite there before. Getting kills on the Azir could be massive for accelerating this game. We do see about a 500 gold lead in the mid lane. We'll see what AL wants to do with that as Tarzan and Kyle are here.
Looking to move up into that enemy jungle, take up space here is Tarzan has really made it a priority as expected to play down towards his bottom side. It's Flandra. It's the first team All-Pro top laner on Sion. We really don't need to worry about him. And, you know, I'm glad you brought up the kill allocation here for AL because with the fact that Ashe is, you know, becoming more and more prevalent in bottom lane, albeit mostly next to the Seraphine, like, I know it's a bit early for a scaling conversation. Oh, hold on. Ashe Arrow from Hope down, gets the stun onto Arha. Ashe doesn't have enough damage. To my point, right, being the fact that Ashe is actually kind of fitting into the mold of scaling marksman in her current iteration of build path. So with him and Azir having early kills, it does bode well for if this game gets stretched longer than we normally expect out of an LPL match.
I mean, Slayer, you're speaking my language. I constantly am talking about how Ashe is a much better late-game champion. Credit for Tarzan. Looking for something on Xiaohu. He is active and aware that Jarvan's going to be in the area. He's just going to make his way out here on the Yone. But this is definitely a scary game state for Waybo. We don't have a gold lead at this point in the game, around 13 minutes, and they really need to start getting active. This Pantheon is still going to be relevant. That ultimate is available. Grand Starfall can be dropped. We'll see where Jeje wants to put it. He is the one with the resources and the only kill on the side of Waybo right now. All really going to be up to him. Put a lot of pressure on him in the pre-show. Could see a fight here in the mid lane with everybody around the area.
Xiaohu, I mean, he's got that sense, right? How many thousands of games, thousands of times has he stood around this very part of the map, expecting chaos on the other side? And, well, he was correct. It wasn't just Tarzan, it was Kyle paired up with him. And as much as we do talk about the fact that Waybo, again, kind of sluggish in the early game, for right now, the item advantages, it's one, you know, legendary item on each side, right? But the value, the first items for a lot of these Waybo champions brings them a lot of, you know, sneaky strength if we do have a big fight break out at this point. Trinity Force versus Kraken Slayer, a Blade of the Ruined King versus like a Nashor's. These are clear, better items for a fight right now, K-Man.
Exactly, and this is the time of the game where you want to utilize that. That's why we're seeing this pressure on the top side. Tarzan trying to follow around this Yone, make sure that a lot of that engage is neutralized at this point, because that can be where Waybo are most dangerous. If they combo a Grand Starfall on top of a Yone engage, things can get bad pretty quickly for basically anyone other than the Jarvan. As long as Tarzan stays vigilant and prevalent, we'll just say, throughout the map, then I think things are going to be fine for AL, but we could see the game get a little bit slower. 30 seconds on Rift Herald. This topside pressure is going to be worth it here for AL as they continue to use their bot lane to shove out this wave.
Yeah, we got all those quests done, which means we can finally return to Professional League Legends' favorite thing, lane swapping. Is hello, Flandra gets the big smashing and knock-up in Unstoppable Onslaught, holds Zika in place, and buys enough time for this TP to come through, and Shanks just wallops Zika into his own turret. Really well played there between the solo lanes of anyone's legend, showing why they are so good on the map.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a huge mistake from Zika on the Rumble to give free gold over to this Azir. We were talking about how you can't really allow Shanks to get out of control because there's not really an easy way to deal with this Azir in the late game. Now Kyle, a little overextended, taking a lot of damage, but
that's an elf flash, though.
That is true. That is elf flash, and more resources burned right before a lot of these objectives spawn.
What's the, I think I've heard it on multiple of these playoff casts now. What's the new LPL staple we're crowning it? I think it was Melvin talking about it, was we just love in the LPL to burn key summers and cooldowns right before major objectives. All right. Here's one of those ultimates. They're going after Shanks. He's clear out the wave, though. Kyle's here. The Fate Shield's still going to hit. The Encore. Both the members of the dive flash out of it, so Kyle can't even find a trade here. And now he's kind of trapped under turret, right? Xiaohu's going to take out the wave. They bring an extra member over in Arha. Tarzan's not going to be in the area. Hope can't get over here. And Kyle is going to have to pay for the transgressions of trying to save his mid laner. That's a double up for Waybo.
Ask and I shall receive. I wanted to see this Pantheon Yone combo really ramp up in the mid game here, and that's exactly what we got. Tarzan has been in the area on this bot side. He wants to contest this dragon, but there really should be no way for him to do that easily. I would imagine this ends up being a trade of objectives. Dragon taken for Waybo, their second of the game, and then potentially Rift Herald prioritized here for anyone's legend. I could definitely see that benefiting both sides, but Waybo with the kills definitely going to feel comfortable coming out on top in this one and getting that gold back to neutral.
What a ceremonious moment for JJ in the game state, being 3-0 on this Pantheon, the biggest gold lead on either matchup, and also obviously getting over to 1,500 kills in the LPL. So congrats to you, JJ, on that moment. But you've now put a lot of the brunt on your shoulders for this mid-game. Still, though, all that map pressure is starting to help out Waybo in other facets as well. Xiaohu is going to be able to pick up this bottom lane tier 1 turret to make that a trade for the Rift Herald here. And now is where the game is going to become pretty fun, K-Man, because the side laning is going to be such a focal point, especially with these mid laners, is Arha's already shadowing Zika, maybe looking for Shanks here. Nothing really going to materialize but a poke off the turret.
Hard to really capitalize on an Azir at this point in the game, but I love that you pointed out the side lane pressure, because that's where I feel Waybo really have a distinct advantage with their draft. This Yone Rumble, like solo side lane, even Ezreal, they're going to be really difficult to answer at this point in the game in terms of finding easy ways to send resources without overcommitting to a specific part of the map. While there might not be major objectives up, this Pantheon can collapse almost anywhere, and if you take one bad fight and let this game spiral, it could be really bad. AL need to be very, very aware of exactly where they are on the map to make sure that they're not taking an exchange and giving over free gold in a situation where they really don't need to right now.
That's why those 3 grubs that AL are able to grab also going to be such a pivotal point to kind of slow down that side lane threat. And I'm glad you brought up the Ezreal too, because he's not going to be a side laner, but there is intrinsic value in having an AD that you do not have to worry about catching mid waves in this part of the game, sort of, you know, either high or in a neutral position. And Azir's escapability, Ezreal's escapability is one of those markers here, as we may have a play onto JJ. Soppel onslaught into the Astro. Agent of Assault's going to at least block the damage, but the stuns land all the same. The Rumble Equalizer does come out. JJ gets a good heal from Arha, but it's just too much damage and no response for Waybo. Down goes the 3-kill Pantheon.
And that's the exact play that you need to make at that point in time. Xiaohu trying to look aggressive onto Shanks here, but it's so hard for this Yone to capitalize on the Azir. The reason that that's so relevant is because that's the biggest spike for Jeje in the game. Black Cleaver is done. Herald's going to get dropped in the mid lane. That's mid lane tier 1. It's going to be even more in terms of the charge, as we see this Herald actually brought down.
Oh yeah,
see if he can drift it onto the bot side. Tarzan?
Weave! Yeah, he's going to get it. Zika doesn't even have an idea this happens until plop. There's a bunch of Voilings behind him. And this is a really positive sign here, K-Man. That last minute and a half of plays, that is bread and butter AL. They get 1 kill, explode the lead off of plays on the map, and, well, even when you look for responses here, Tarzan's in the area. The vision toggle, Flandra they have no idea where Tarzan is, but they're still going to chase after Zika. Zika gets the knockup and lockdown onto Flandra. Despite knowing that Tarzan was in the area, the global map presence of JJ means he gets his revenge.
It's definitely a nice counterplay here for Waybo, but not exactly one that I would consider a fair trade. Hope still coming out on top in that with about a 1,000 gold lead on the Ashe at this point. 2 items completed on that champion. Hope is going to be a problem in this game. We really highlighted how he's not quite been the same player across the playoffs as he was in the regular season. You could say the same for both AD carries, but he is a massive piece towards AL's success moving forward. Jeje at the very least pulling something off there, but Tarzan is completely caught up in terms of items, and this gold lead that Jeje had done a great job of building is completely neutralized. I imagine they're going to continue to take the fight to this Pantheon, and especially without ultimate, this is the time to force if you are AL.
And what a game for your Ashe hyper-scaling propaganda, because the accelerated Ashe will really get to show off that damage. It is going to be a main problem here, because like you talked about with Jeje, this like 2-item spot is like arguably the biggest the Pantheon gets. You could argue Moramana Trinity Force is the strongest spot Ezreal usually gets in a lot of these games. I would like to say 3 items in. The point being, the fact that Elk isn't really in position to capitalize on when this Ezreal should outweigh the Ashe's power is going to be something Waybo are really going to have to address as this game state rolls forward.
That's the scary thing in general, is that this Yone as well is going to become a little bit more limited in the way that he can find engages the longer this game goes. With the amount of CC that is on the other side of this matchup, you can't really afford to play overly aggressive and get caught out in side lanes. You know, this is the time to try and find those engages. Jeje will have that Grand Starfall up in just a couple of seconds. That is massive, as all of the objectives are spawning. Baron is on the map, but Dragon, more importantly, Soul Point here for Waybo Gaming with this Chem Soul is on the map. Jeje is in the area. Waybo definitely are going to want to fight over this.
Zika's going to have access to that enhanced teleport, so he'll get that big shield when he comes on over, as you already see a TP from Shanks joining up with AL. They are not going to let Waybo get to this soul point position, and Flandra with his own super TP shield is going to stand tall in the line, but there's the Ash Arrow from Hope. Is going to immediately be cleansed out, I believe, by Mikhails from Arha, so that big engage ult off the board for AL, but it's bothered enough space to start up this Dragon. Xiaohu is hunting for a big flank with that big enhanced blast. He's going to go in, but it's a secure from Tarzan. Flashes away from the Fate Shield as well, so Xiaohu doesn't get on any of these targets, and Tarzan flag and drags out of the pit, and now AL can reset their battle line. JJ going to go into the background with a big Grand Starfall, but it's the Cataclysm onto Xiaohu, traps him in place, Shanks takes him down, and now Flandra can stand tall and say, JJ, you cannot pass to my carries. Shanks picks up the double kill, masterful fight there from AL, and they're going to turn their victorious team fight right over to the Baron pit.
It's absolutely gorgeous from Anyone's Legend in terms of their execution. They get in, they get out, they get a couple of kills for their trouble, and because the fight is so overwhelmingly positive, they're on Baron now. Waybo gonna try and do something and flash onto Shanks.
Oh, that was a great use of the overheat from Zika. Shanks does get caught out, but Zika takes all of his HP. Elk is already down to half HP. The Baron, though, doing good shred. The split one, all pro 80 carry Elk needs to do the heavy lifting here if AL are gonna get knocked off this Baron, but he's taking the long way around. He's left Arha up creek with no paddle, down to about 25% HP. The TP's coming through. AL need to pick up this Baron now. Tarzan will get the smite. It's Xiao who rejoins the fight. They go after Flandra with Zika coming out of the brush. They get rid of the Scion, but trade their top laner. Xiao who forward with the soul on bound form. Doesn't find much, and Arha will finally drop to the zombified corpse of Flandra that will get the rest of AL out with 4 members holding on to Baron.
Slayer, we wanted chaos, we wanted action, and we are getting it in this game number 1. What a ridiculous fight from both of these teams. It starts with a great play from Anyone's Legend to force down this Dragon. Unfortunately for Xiaohu, he doesn't land anything on the ultimate here on the Yone, and this is where I think they end up playing this perfectly. AL end up spacing this as well as possible. Jeja tries to pincer them on the back end, but with the aggression coming in from Tarzan and Shanks, they burst down the Yone, and there's just no damage on the other side. The Baron call from there is very greedy and aggressive, but it works out. Now
Shanks caught in an instant. He's got a 3v1 in front of him. He's going to burn out on that Seekers, but he was as good as dead. Falls for the Death Brush. Didn't even see it coming. Waybo get a clutch pick.
That's really important towards making sure that this push in the side lane is less effective coming in from AL. Shanks already dying in the previous fight, so not going to be taking a Baron buff off of someone, but look at the Baron power play right now. It's a minute and a half left, and they're up 400 gold, 14 gold, whatever gold. You want to... Yeah, they're now down gold officially with that top lane tower going to Xiaohu. I mean, it's just... Oh, and as we see, Tarzan actually dying in our replay here, with Xiaohu being able to kill him under the tower as well. So this has really been a bit of a turn. I imagine it's when we got that replay there.
Wow. Well, negative Baron power play. That is certainly problematic, but I do think, despite the fact that Waybo have garnered a lot of gold back, at 25 minutes, you still came in, I don't know, do you still feel like AL's comp, this scaled up already, is in a much better spot? I'm seeing a 3-item Ashe immediately that's worrying me for this Waybo side.
Yeah, I think our eyes are on the same part of the scoreboard here, Slayer, is that Ashe is still massive in terms of playing these front-to-back team fights. That's where Waybo is going to struggle. They need to continue to try and find these picks, because as strong as Ezreal is at this point in the game, he's not going to be able to match the damage coming in from Azir and Ashe, and that front line is very serious on the side of AL. That is the benefit of drafting scaling, is that when you get into these chaotic games, you just have more tools in the back end here, but with just over a minute on that Dragon spawning, it still is soul point for Waybo. That is likely going to be what we are fighting over the next couple of minutes, and it's really just going to be about if we can hit those item spikes in time, and can we set up in position in the correct spots to make sure that we're not leaving these carries exposed like they have been in the past couple fights.
Exactly, K-Man. And speaking of being a bit exposed, I was going to point out the teleport timer here for Xiaohu as he tries to match on the other side of the map. It was not going to be available by the time this Dragon comes around, maybe a couple seconds short, so he is forced to kind of take this reset now and alleviate some of the side lane pressure he was giving towards Flandra. Because as you called out, Waybo, no, the Dragon Soul is the way that they can win this game 1, and they want all parties here early to try and fight back for Vision.
Yeah, specifically, you are on that 3-item power spike here for Xiaohu. This Yone is going to be massive if he can land an ult here as we set up.
No Flandra yet. Oh, they flash after Hope. The stun doesn't land in time. JJ gets down onto Hope. The Mikhails comes across. Hope is now going to kite back, and nobody else can get through this choke. It's just JJ with hopes and prayers that don't mean jack squat. He goes down first, and Shanks flies in with a Shuriken Shuffle to get rid of Sika. The Fate Sealed only clips onto Tarzan, and Waybo's team fight falls completely flat. It's a flash arcane shift from Elk to get back one, but now it's him against the world here. Anyone's Legends, though, showing some serious respect to Elk's damage. Tarzan a bit wary to step up. Flandra just eating Mystic shots like candy bars right now. Tarzan will flag and drag, doesn't get the knock-up onto Elk. He's still finding ways to kite out Anyone's Legend. And more importantly, he's buying time for Waybo. AL are not on this dragon. All they can really do is pick up plates and try and reset for another bout.
Yeah, the problem for AL is while they win the fight, they don't do enough to be able to really establish pressure here. Tarzan's going to stay in the pit, but this is such a risky dragon to take, and he's even going to back off from this play. It looks very, very good, but once again, some pivotal carries getting taken out for Anyone's Legend, and Waybo are going to be the team to start up on the dragon now.
Damn, Elk. Feels like he's calling the shots. He's arcade forward into Hope, but that was L and Fies. He's still able to find the kill next to Sao. His Tarzan can't get the trade. Elk gets out just in the nick of time, and Elk Flandra's TP is completely errored. He flashes out of the pit. All of a sudden, Waybo are on to Chemtech's Soul Point, all thanks to their big bad AD carry.
Oh, Elk is stepping up, 1,000 gold down. It does not matter. If you can outplay your opponent on this Ezreal, it is going to be effective, and Elk is popping off right now for this team. He is carrying them on their shoulders as we see a bit of a replay of how this all started off in the first place. It's a really aggressive engage from Jeje, but Hope just shuts it down a bit with the arrow. At least buys enough time for his jungler to be able to arrive to the situation. And now with the Pantheon gone, remember, so much of this early game gold has gone down onto the Pantheon. It's a really nice play from Shanks. If he's able to hit Xiaohu there as well, it's probably a complete fight ace, but the Yone being able to survive for as long as he did and deal as much damage as he did to the Azir actually is what turns this. Elk, of course, on the back end is playing great, being able to really disrupt and buy time, but it's the carry duo of both Xiaohu and Elk that really, really are huge for Waybo. And look at that, they've got a gold lead now for the first time in what feels like ages.
Just fighting their way forward and finally getting back to the peak we saw of Waybo in some of those regular season splits where they came in with some pretty big fixture wins. And it's Elk, most importantly, feeling himself back again on one of the most skill-expressive AD carries you can have in the game. I'm glad you called it out. A champion of this caliber. We've seen the greatest marksman in the world, not just this year, but across time, show that it doesn't really matter what spot you're in deficit-wise with a champion of Ezreal's caliber. You hit your shots, you kite correctly with these arcane shifts, you can move mountains. He's going to still have to move some pretty big hills to try and make sure Waybo can get themselves this Game 1 win, and more importantly, set his sights on another Baron that has hit the Rift.
Yeah, if Waybo can secure this next Baron, that is terrifying with the comp that they have assembled. Elk stepping up a little bit here, but look at the split push on the bottom side. It's forcing Flandra onto that part of the map. Teleport is going to be available for both him and Xiaohu if they do want to go for this Baron play, but it is going to be Waybo who has full priority over the river right now. Kind of get to choose exactly where they want to put this. Jeje is in the area that Grand Starfall potentially could be something to watch out for. Elk building that penetration. He is getting closer and closer to becoming nearly unstoppable, even front to back, as this game continues to go along. That's not to take away from what Hope can still do on the other side. We wanted a battle of AD carries, and I think we're getting it here, Slayer.
Exactly, K-Man. Take a look at some of these summoners that are going to be critical to try and get back up here. Elk is still waiting to recover his flash. Shanks is waiting on his as well. Tarzan will take over to grab his key summoner back pretty soon here. But I hear a silent ultimate. They're going after Xiaohu. Oh, the Fate Sealed was just in the nick of time. That Ash Arrow nearly sniped him out of the jump over the wall. And now that's two pretty critical ultimates off the board here for AL.
Yeah, it's actually a really nice grab. Waybo's still going to have priority and pressure, but definitely a lot of combat power going to be nullified for the next couple of seconds at the very least. We'll see if AL can actually capitalize on that. The problem is that they don't really have a lot of inroads anywhere. Look at your map right now. It's completely dark for AL in the river. There's no way for them to walk up efficiently without at least a ton of resources invested, and it's so hard to do that at this point in the game. So see what Waybo can do with a lot of that pressure and priority, but great call out on the summoners. Basically everything coming off of cooldown very shortly.
Oh, yeah.
Flashes are going to be available. This is likely going to be the game-ending fight either at Baron or in a minute 30 with this Dragon Soul potentially spawning for Waybo.
Man, I'm glad you called out, you know, how ill-advised it could be for Waybo to kind of start this Baron with their comp, especially the fact that you have Xiaohu on the bot side. Feels like they can't really go after it. AL still feeling pretty brash themselves, are going to start the Baron on Vision. They feel like they've caught Waybo on a reset timer. That's exactly what they've done. Look at Elk, he's still walking over. Grand Starfall's going to come down here for JJ, but he's got to put together another big steal, and he does just that! Flashes right into the pitch and snatches away the Baron from Tarzan. It's Xiaohu onto the backline, then they get on top of Hope. He's down. Shanks hits a big four-man dream and shuffle, but it doesn't matter. It's too little, too late. The highway robbery of JJ might have just shocked AL into a Waybo Gaming Game 1. It's only Shanks left up as Flandra goes zombified. Waybo with control and destiny charging towards the Nexus.
The veteran leader for Waybo Gaming comes up clutch once again. That is the biggest possible play that he could make in this entire game. They are marching down on the top side right now, and these death timers are long. Waybo want to end this game number 1 right now and take us to game 2.
I don't think Shanks can do it. He doesn't have that Emperor's Divide. I mean, Elk takes a ton of harass, though, for no reason. And Waybo are going to play it patient because they have a Dragon Soul respawning. But that fight is really going to decide this game as AL respawns, and all of them came in, have to rush right back over to another neutral.
Slayer, we talk about pivotal plays all the time. This is as pivotal as it could ever get for Waybo in this game. The flash over the wall into the smite, and now look at the combat power. Look at where Xiaohu is in this fight. It is so hard to try and deal with this Yone. It doesn't matter if you shove them all out of the pit. It's over by that point. Dragon has been started. This is Soul. You cannot give this over if you're AL.
But they're completely pushed out of the pit here, and Xiaohu does so much damage to this Dragon. He's looking to come over the wall. He goes to that Fate Unsealed spot. There's the Fate Unsealed ult. He gets onto Shanks, but he gets immediately thrown out of it. But Waybo, Elk eviscerates Kael. Xiaohu's on top of the Dragon. He's going to secure his JJ. Goes after the carries. Tarzan cannot kill off Elk. He's unleashed and too powerful for AL to deal with. That will be the game, and it's stamped off in the most perfect way. Waybo Elk is back and ready to roar in the playoffs, and he started off by shocking AL to give Waybo a Game 1 win.
Waybo Gaming strike first, and they strike aggressively in game number 1. Everything you could have ever wanted to see, we got. This is going to be a real fun one, Slayer, because Waybo have clearly come to play today.
Waybo throwing a sucker punch of all sucker punches, and AL continuing to struggle in these later game spots with leads. Yeah, K-Man, that means we are in for a series. And what a series we should have if we get that Elk for the rest of our bout going forward.
Oh boy, I mean, this was incredible from Waybo, right? I want to give props to both teams because I think AL played some of these fights really well in their own way, but Waybo was better in game number 1. This had nothing to do with setups, with scaling. We were talking about AL having the team fight advantage, especially as this game went further and further along with the Azir and the Ashe getting a lot of gold. It did not matter. Like you said in the draft, came down to execution, and that's where Waybo were just better here in game number 1.
Wow. These are going to be some pretty good highlights to watch going back through. I don't know, K-Man. We're the AL guys here. I think I should have asked you, like, what the... I know I've played this bit with you before with, like, the panic meter stuff. I should have asked you, coming into this series, like, what the panic meter was, the fact that AL's even in the lower bracket, right? This deep in the lower bracket. I don't care what the number is then. Like, what is it now? Because it's got to have gone up a couple octaves.
Yeah, I think just a little bit.
I mean, you predicted 3-0 AL, so you're already done.
I'm already wrong. I am already out of here. But I'll say, like, this was a chaotic game, and to me, the most concerning thing for AL is that they weren't able to corral Waybo Gaming in this one. To me, what I think of AL and what I think of what they do best is taking a mid game where they have a small gold lead and turning it into a very big gold lead very fast and kind of taking away options from the other team. That is not what we saw at all in game number 1, and quite frankly, that's not what we've seen from AL in the playoffs. That's what they struggled with against JD Gaming, and you know, I think we can see from the damage charts here, all of that gold on Hope, all of that gold on Shanks, even if he was dying at points in this game, it didn't matter. Elk and Zika being the top damage dealers in this game, Xiaohu doing just as much as Shanks, even more so than the Azir in the late game in terms of his team fighting. you know, those are panic-inducing sentences to say out loud, and I think specifically being able to look and see an aggressive comp come out from the side of Waybo and for them to be able to execute on it, pull the trigger, and make those plays happen, I mean, it's everything you could possibly want to see here from them.
Well said, K-Man. Yeah, it goes back to like a lot of those conversations I've seen people when talking about AL and in the idea, and you know, also talk about hope in general, where it's like, most of the convos that I had were like after the regular split, where it was you know, giving Hope the praise for making an all-pro team, playing really well in the regular split. But you mentioned it in the pre-show, right? It's like a team of AL stature with, you know, one of the best junglers in the world, perennial, you know, best international competing LPL team of the last year. Like, no matter how good his regular splits are, like Hope, there's a higher bar for him. There's a higher bar for AL, and it puts a lot of pressure on this guy. And in a game like this, where, as you mentioned, everything's going right for him early, like, if he can't come up with big clutch moments in series against a depleted Waybo team compared to not only what they'll see in the rest of the LPL, but if they go to internationals again, this is very problematic. And it's been a clear problem for AL in big games for really since this roster kind of came together, it feels like.
If you want to fear, like if you want to start getting a little bit worried, it's that there was basically no point throughout this entire late game where Elk was up in gold, and there was also never a fight where Elk felt like he was even on the same power level as Hope in terms of how much he was affecting these team fights on the Ezreal. He was down 1,000, 1,500 gold, a lot of the early pressure going on to the bot side, and yet Elk was still able to outperform him. We set up a lot of expectations for Hope. It wasn't good enough in game number one. I'm certainly not going to put the entire game on him. You know, this smite is massive, and generally some of these team fights are just not on the Ashe, right? Like, you can only do so much sometimes when you are the Ashe on the backline and a Yone is diving on top of you, or you have to worry about a Rumble ultimate, you know, kind of zoning you from a lot of the fight. But in terms of just raw damage in some of these mid-game fights, we saw the passiveness come in. There were no clutch Ashe arrows that were really coming out in the mid-game to find those picks. There was really no side lane action, you know, being able to try and find their engages. They just didn't really look for a lot of those aggressive things that Waybo were looking for, and that's really, at the end of the day, what cost them.
Well said again, K-Man. Yeah, it's... We've already seen just such big Ashe performances, even in this playoffs, that comparing it to what Hope did in this game, there are very worrying signs. I just, like, watching over those last couple of fights, like, what worried me was it feels like this team is somehow not on the same page in those, like, critical spots of fights, which is very head-scratching. Like, I know we're the first split of the year. Like, a lot of our teams that we've already said goodbye to, a lot of the coping has been, like, we need to give them more time to gel. This is the same five, man. Like, comms-wise, nothing should have changed. So that fight where Elk is able to, like, drag Tarzan around the bot side for forever, like, and we watch Hope walk away to go try and take plates on a mid-tier one, like, I just don't – those aren't, like, desync plays that AL made last year to me, and is what is most worrying. We'll dissect K-Man AL a bit more once we get into that Game 2 draft, but quickly – player of the game, or are you giving it to our all-pro marksman or JJ for the steal?
I think Elk has to be the one for me. I can't be mad at JJ. This is an incredible game from him on the Pantheon. Let's not forget that all of that early pressure was JJ on this Pantheon. A lot of the plays that were made, the gold lead that was generated in the early game, this wasn't just a smite performance from him. This is not just him taking the Baron. This was a great game number one, and quite frankly, I do think there was a jungle gap, except maybe it wasn't going in the direction that we thought it was at the beginning of this series.
Yeah, it is JJ with the first blow thrown towards our Split 1 MVP in Tarzan. We'll have to see how he can respond here, because those games have been becoming more and more common for a guy that we hold such a high pedigree on the LPL English broadcast. Speaking here, though, of the LPL English broadcast, if you are looking to support the LPL project, we have LPL English, you can consider becoming a Coffee member. Coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since the vast majority of your contributions will go directly into the show itself. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. Subscribe to our Coffee. It is a linked in chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. And that is, you know, one of the coolest things that we get to do. I love the on-site interviews. not any interviews going on after that game one. It's some pretty, hopefully, heated VOD review sessions here for anyone's legend as they continue to show that they are much more mortal than their #1 seed stature showed coming into this postseason. We'll see if they can find ways to clean this series back up or if Waybo have been re-unleashed behind their marksman elk. All that and more coming to your guys' airwaves after a short break. Back in a flash here on LPL English unofficial coverage of the LPL and more here on YouTube and Twitch. And we open to our third to last series of Split 1 with a haymaker, courtesy of Elk, JJ, and the rest of the Waybo crew here, spoiling Sweet K-Man's 3-0 Anyone's Legend prediction. So K-Man, I am going to put the brunt of pressure on you here. How do we, if we're AL, right, let's start with AL. What do you want to see them do draft-wise to try and come back here? Are we thinking more like carry Tarzan? Are we still going to lean on Shanks, who's been playing really well? Like, what's the 4-1-1?
I mean, it's definitely a lot more complicated after game number 1, because you would think that Shanks, having been so good throughout the playoffs, would be the player you want to look at. He was caught multiple times in key moments inside lanes throughout that game on the Azir. Really gave a lot of gold over. Same thing for Hope, who just didn't have the same impact. I think you have to say, okay, game 1 happened. The draft, while it was good for us on paper, especially in terms of the scaling aspect, maybe gave Waybo too many options. And the lucky thing for us is they won't have as many options going into game number 2 for skill expression. You just kind of have to hope and pray that Shanks is going to have a little bit of a better time in the mid game, because that Azir could have been strong. That Ashe could have been strong. You know, there were all the pieces were there for them to be able to go out and win the team fights. They just didn't execute. And I think really that's the big thing that needs to change in game 2.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the skill expression of that last draft for Waybo. Yone, Ezreal, like those are two champions that require the hands. And well, first of all, Xiaohu, shout out you for still throwing hands down with the best of them on the Yone. And then, of course, we talked about a little bit in the break, K-Man, how Elk looks when he's able to play that Ezreal. I will say for AL, I think, you know, I love Ashe Seraphine, like seeing this come back into the meta. The problem always is going to be you are really inhibiting Kael's ability to pair with Tarzan. I just want, no matter what Tarzan picks, get Kael one of his staple playmakers, man. Like, just give him a Nautilus game, a Rel game, Leona. Thresh has been real fun in the play. Like, one of those champions came in, so he can pair with Tarzan and make these engages cleaner.
Yeah, personally, what I'd love to see out of this team coming into a game 2 is something like a Corki Bard. I think that would play really towards what this team wants to do. Even early in the draft, I feel like there are very few ways for Waybo to be able to answer that without full committing the idea they want for their draft in their first phase. So those are the kinds of ideas that I think you should be floating around as AL. Obviously, a lot of other options are on the table. If you want to go for a more lane-dominant, you know, style 2v2, you do have the option of going Corki Nami in this game, which is something that this team, it does, you know, relatively effectively. You know, Yunara was banned out in the previous game, but it was banned out in second rotation. This is a champion that we see rise in priority a lot in games 2, 3, 4, you know, later on after game number 1, because there were fewer answers to it in the early laning phase. I think all of these would be good early picks, because you have to make sure that that bot lane is comfortable.
We'll have to see what the adjustment looks like for Anyone's Legend, as they have selected first selection, and they'll be on the red side. Waybo opting to go towards the blue side. And so far, we're seeing decently familiar bans, but still a pretty heavy emphasis on mid lane, especially from Waybo. They are looking to target Shanks here and chop down his champ pool for this game, too.
I think this can set up for a couple of different things from the side of Waybo here. If they want to just go super heavy into picking something like the Rise and putting, you know, kind of the pressure onto Shanks to say, hey, do you have a counter? Do you play the, you want to play the Anivia? You want to play the Cassiopeia? Like, what do you want to pull out here as kind of the answer to that? Or this could be setting up for a potential Talia. And I think that's why we see the AL take something like the Vi off the board. There goes the Rise ban. I think both of these signaled pretty heavily by the early mid lane priority in this draft coming in from Waybo. At this point, I think it really just comes down to, do you feel like you're scared of the Yunara? Do you want to take that off the board? Or is there perhaps maybe a more stable top side that you're scared of?
I do think, like, the one kind of problem here for Waybo's ban pattern is we've also really handicapped Xiaohu's champion pool. Like, he's a big Aurora guy, obviously plays the Orianna Rise, and he gets the Yone game 1 win. We'll have to see here. Already, though, there we go, Anyone's Legend. You get the Nico through, get Kael on that, and let him be a big playmaker alongside Tarzan, no matter what he wants to bring into the jungle. But as you mentioned, likely means, and they will trade the Yunara back over to Elk. So for casual fans here, K-Man, I'm loving this draft so far. Elk on a big hyper carry, and Kael back to playmaking.
Yeah, it really builds out what is my favorite comp in the current meta in terms of consistency, which is this mid-jungle priority duo into a Yunara late game. This bridge, as I like to call it, the bridge comp in terms of getting there. And especially after Elk played, how Elk played in game number 1, you can feel pretty confident that he's going to be pretty comfortable on this Yunara, who can really cause some chaos and some damage over the back end of the game. But looks like it's actually going to be some priority on the Galio here from Shanks. That definitely signals to me that they want Tarzan on a carry. And that can create some really exciting circumstances. Things like Nefiri are on the board. Kiana as well. Definitely going to be on my radar for something that could answer this Zinja.
All right, you're going to get exactly that, K-Man. Bring out the hounds. It's going to be Tarzan on the carry jungle. I do think this Galio pick is really twofold here, though, because, again, I really want to revisit once we move into the second phase of the game, especially if we do get the expected Lulu lock-in, so you get that Yunara Lulu bottom lane. You got rid of Xiaohu's favorite AD mid laner right now, which is the Yone, in game 1, thanks to Fearless. He's a big Galio guy when he tries to protect Elk on a hyper carry, and we already talked about his other options already taken away with Aurora Orianna Rise. What is Xiaohu going to really go to here? I would expect a Cassiopeia ban would be really big here for AL.
Yeah, Cassiopeia, I think Syndra as well, kind of the other thing that I'm really looking at for this comp. I don't think it would be super consistent with what they drafted. I think it would definitely make the early game a bit more difficult to try and play through that middle of the map, but it's just down to comfort here, especially with the Taliyah off the board. What you really like to see out of a mid laner paired up with Xinjiao, especially when you're bridging into Yunara, is a playmaker, somebody that can be aggressive. I don't know, is this an assassin angle for someone like Xiaohu? I know it's not exactly been the most popular thing for him to pick, but I would love something like an Ahri or a LeBlanc or an Akali in a spot like this. Anything that can really give you priority, and I guess AL are feeling the same as we get that Ahri ban off the board.
Again, the Cassiopeia, it's a Galio dash, a Nico dash, like Nefiri is dash-oriented. I think if you're Xiaohu, like, the miasma value, the petrifying gaze value into a team that's very clearly going to run at you is huge this game. I don't care if he even doesn't have that great of a laning phase and he doesn't do a ton of damage. Like, his kit's value would be amazing here. Oh. Or does he have something else up his sleeve? I mean, this also would fit really well into a team running at him. Swain for Xiaohu.
I love this. I think this is a fantastic pick with the comp that's been drafted for AL because, again, they have to run into the Swain here in terms of the way that they've made their comp. This makes Nefiri a lot harder to carry through, at least in terms of the setup right now. It's going to make Tarzan's job a lot more difficult. We see the MF locked in here. It's going to be topside that ends up being the blind pick for Flandra. I'd be surprised if it was something super aggro, but things like Renekton, things like, Ornn are going to be the biggest priority. It will be that Renekton locked in, most stable top laner in the game right now. It is clear what AL's comp is. You have a Misfortune, which can do damage and, can, be important, but is mostly going to be there for early lane pressure to let the Nico roam. You have a Galio Renekton as solo lane. This game is really on Tarzan with the Nefiri to have to play into what is a comp that's pretty comfortable moving backwards at the moment.
Wow. Hats off to Waybo Gaming, man. I just think they've done a phenomenal job cornering AL into having to play a comp that they wanted to go for, like a Tarzan carry-esque performance, but it just does not. The puzzle pieces do not fit for me unless AL run Waybo over in the early game. Like, that is the only way I think that they can get away with a comp like this, barring, like, huge Waybo throws in team fights.
I completely agree, but they do have that tempo and pressure in the early game. Specifically, I'm looking at this Renekton. This is going to be a really hard champion to deal with, like pre-15 minutes into this game. There aren't a lot of really clean, consistent tools to be able to shut down Flandra. If you can get that pressure onto the top side and be able to utilize that for grub priority, it's going to make your mid game a lot easier because you do actually have a lot of ways to play side lanes in this game with the Galio, with the MF, with the Renekton. So going to be really interested to see where they put that pressure, but it's basically the opposite of game one. All that early game pressure and responsibility is on anyone's legend to tie up this series.
They've got a bad taste in their mouth after game one came in. They're hearing the noise getting louder and louder. The team that many crowned the greatest in 2025 for the LPL, how they were able to perform, especially at internationals, with their Split 2 domestic title. And now they are staring down a very critical early game, as you pointed out, to try to avoid an 0-2 that we have yet to see a team this playoffs recover from. We've seen some 1-2 comebacks, K-Man, but no reverse sweeps so far.
Reverse sweeps are nearly impossible at this level for teams this good. Anyone's Legend are going to have their backs up against the wall.
I can confidently say the Waybo Gyos are getting louder, and I love to hear it here as we are onto the Rift and settling into our lane states. Another double range, double up matchup on the bot side here. It came in. You expect that this should be a pretty clear AL shoving lane, right, with this Nico and Misfortune, and you can already see taking some positive health trades.
Yeah, I think this will definitely be favored towards them early. I don't think it gets quite that simple as you continue to grow in levels here. I think a lot of the rest of this early game is going to be pretty neutral. For this bot lane, the Lulu actually does a lot more than I think people give her credit for, but here comes the trade.
Okay, Elk gets those enhanced autos and forces the barrier, again, early out of hope here, recognizing that's the strongest point in those Yunara trading patterns. So that little summer advantage. Taking a look at these jungle paths here, it's going to be sort of a mirror, right? We're going to see Tarzan move down towards that bot side. Yahoo nearly had to force the summer out of Shanks if he hits that never move. But it will be, my point, JJ pathing away from this bottom lane that I again think might hold the most volatility in this early phase.
Yeah, I really like this decision from both junglers. Tarzan especially doesn't really want to run into Jeje, but Jeje wants to put that pressure onto the top side to make sure this Renekton can't get out of control if there is any sort of action, and if Tarzan potentially wants to try and show some favoritism towards that part of the map. So I think both junglers kind of making sense in terms of the pathing that they have here. I'm watching this mid lane matchup. It's already a little bit tough for Shanks. This is not going to get easier for Galio as this game continues to go along. I am very worried about what this late game could look like if AL do not get that lead, but that's where Tarzan's Nefiri comes in. All eyes are going to be on the pseudo-captain here for AL.
Okay, man, I'm just so mesmerized by how the layoff champion pool meta continues to evolve outside of those games 4 and 5, right? Like, we are seeing fun picks in these opening rounds as people get more and more accustomed to Fearless. And like you mentioned, Galio, it's always like the blanket statement. It's, hey, you know, he's just great into magic damage. You can pick him into magic damage. But Swain is that one matchup where you kind of buck that trend.
Yeah, as we get a really nice trade from Zika on the top side. Not super consequential, but does have his jungler in the area if he wants to potentially go for something. You're absolutely right, though. Galio known as kind of an AP matchup abuser, if you will, and I don't think that's necessarily how this is going to go. We do see some pressure in the mid lane from Jeje. As AL continue to kind of push down onto the bot side here. I would be really surprised if there were consistent aggressive plays being made. For now, I think both teams just kind of want to posture to make sure they're set up for a lot of these objectives that are going to be spawning in about a minute and a half here.
Keep your eyes on those early neutrals as always. It's Tarzan making his way back out and really spinning towards the top side on this reset. JJ will do the same, kind of continuing this mirror. He's going to run right towards the bot side. We're hoping Kyle are hoping to likely get this reset off in a neutral spot here. Both junglers going to hop on to their Krugs, but with the way the timers are positioned, it should be Tarzan, K-Man, that will get back down towards his bot side around when this first Drake spawns.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much tempo they want to put into that, because while you are strong here, you don't want to waste this opportunity on the top side.
Well, Flandra that gets the stun onto Zika. Immediately has to flash as he gets the knock and get Flandra off him, but now Tarzan has his pack ready to hunt. Is there enough damage, though? No, Zika, the Chad, just walks down the 1v2 gank and survives losing his flash.
Yeah, it does have to burn the flash there, which is incredibly relevant against Renekton in particular. Well, it kind of makes it so you can't make mistakes at this point in the laning phase and opens up the door for Tarzan to show even more favoritism towards that top side if he wanted to. This is exactly what I called out in draft, where I need this Renekton to be kind of the focal point for this early game for anyone's Legend. That might, you know, require them to be a little less focused on this dragon, but it does look like Tarzan's going to be making his way down there.
Zika TPing back here and does have the wave state in a decently comfortable spot here. Flandra really hurting that he can't get this reset, but he does have the fact that he'll be able to take over level 6 is a real big boon. That Dominus just makes all these 1v1 matchups so much tougher, and he gets over to Dominus level 6. It's a clutch knockup from Zika as he ticks over to level 6, and now he's stepping forward. Here comes the top lane ultimate chicken, but I think we might have a potential kill on our hands. Zika's just stacking that passive. He's just going to hold on to the Grim Deliverance, finally uses it. It's the double dash and flash from Flandra as Zika flips the top lane on its head already.
Yeah, it's very well played from Zika, just staying very patient in the matchup to make sure that Flandra never really has the chance to be able to build up that rage to heal back up in the fight. Just a really nice play to burn that flash. That's that aggression that you earned on the top side with the gank from Tarzan basically gone to the wind at this point. So we see Flandra at least getting shoved in, but that pressure is going to allow AEL to pick up this dragon. That's what Hope and Kyle are generating for this team on the bottom side with that Misfortune and Nico. Bit of a prize for this team. Certainly not going to be the biggest thing in the world, but stacking those dragons could be key towards an AEL inevitable win condition.
Didn't get to see, we saw the value of that dragon stacking for the Waybo Game 1 win, as that was what was really able to set up the fights they wanted, being able to force AL to come to their sort of battle arena on that bot side. So good to see AL kind of ride those longs and getting set on dragons much better. We do have the grubs in about a minute 30, and we'll see the slight advantage over in the support matchup. Expect Kyle to want to roam over there to play with Tarzan and the power of this Nico, especially if the Nico can get over to level 6 before those grubs come online.
That's exactly it now, is that you're starting to hit the point in the game where this is where Nico shines. Getting out on the map, opening things up, and being a playmaker. This Xin Zhao is a huge, huge piece towards Waybo Gaming's comp, and a big reason why we like it is because of his skirmish potential against something like Nefiri. At this point in the game, Nico can really help to neutralize that, especially if Kyle is going to hit level 6 about halfway there at this point with a minute left until those grubs end up coming on the map. We'll see what priority they want to put there. I think grubs are more valuable in this game for anyone's legend than they are for Waybo, but neither team really wants to give these over for free.
Power of side laning, not as present in this game, but always the value of those grubs. Need to keep an eye on, as we do have now virtually everybody except supports getting onto those ultimates, and we talked a lot about in that masterful Game 1 performance for JJ, the value of that Grand Starfall, how it can really shape some of those fights. And I would like to see, again, playing Tarzan into this carry role. Him and Shanks try and link up, bring over that hero's entrance with that call of the pack, really making it tough for Waybo to feel comfortable ever taking a fight, even if they seem to be on even footing.
Yeah, that is the thing. We keep favoring this Waybo draft, but it does take some time for them to get put into the position where they really feel confident in taking a lot of these exchanges. Again, even with Zika, doing a good job to be able to burn that summoner off of Flandra on the top side. It's both flashes down for top laners, which makes it a lot more difficult for the Renekton to really burst through key targets if they do want to take this full fight around the grubs. And I think that's why we're seeing the priority come in from JJ. He wants to try and get what he can here as we get the teleports coming in. AL definitely don't want to give these over for free.
Yep, here we go. It's the map movement we expect from them always, and it's Kyle back with his good buddy Tarzan, trying to make plays happen in this early phase here. Believe they're going to spot out JJ on his blue buff. He has already claimed one of those grubs, and he is totally comfortable saying, I've got some camps to clear, it seems like. I'll give over the grubs without JJ. Yeah, he's walking forward. Arha is here. We have a bit of a 3v3. Top laners could join soon as Tarzan will take down the first grub. Waybo feeling really cautious about this approach. They can't decide if they want to juggle for those grubs. The grubs are already going to go down, and there's the demonic ascension to Shanks. Does look for the engage. Here comes the Pot Blossom on to 3, into the hero's entrance knockup. It's going to have 2 more. Xiaohu with that ult is really hard to cut down. The Crescent Guard from Jinja does come out as Tarzan dives all the way after Jinja and cuts him down to size and sets his sights right back over onto the Zahan. Just like that, Tarzan picks up a double. Xiaohu with the demonic ascension will find a trade, and this is the problem with the Swain. You have a low range comp, but that's exactly where the Swain wants to corner you. Xiaohu seemingly not taking any damage. Can anybody shut down this Swain? No, Xiaohu keeps on firing feathers over and over. Finally, Tarzan cuts him down to size, but that is a boding, foreshadowed message from Waybo. These fights are not going to be easy.
It is a massive, massive fight for both of these teams, because if you take a look at your scoreboard, where did those kills go? 3 on Tarzan, 2 on Xiaohu. We are looking at a game that is set up perfectly for both of these teams to have their carries pop off, and it's all because of this incredibly greedy fight from Waybo Gaming. This looks terrible for them, because look at your mini-map. First off, Zika is completely zoned out of this on the Zahan. There's no way for him to be able to get in because Flandra is zoning him so well on the Renekton, but Hope is here, and you've got no AD carry. Elk is down on the bot side. This is an odd numbered fight, but that does not matter when you've got a Swain who is popping off. And this is exactly what we talked about, right, Slayer, in the draft, where when you have a comp that needs to go forward, that is short range, that has all this engage, when you are running in to not only a Swain, but a Swain with a Lulu in this fight, it is so hard to burst him down when you've used all your resources, taking down other tanks like the Xin Zhao throughout the beginning part of the fight. And so gold going on to Swain is huge, but even more importantly, a 1,000 gold lead for Tarzan's Neferi.
Okay, man, I was locked into your breakdown, but I really quickly have to shout out Hope. NBA fans will know about the cardio award. Shout out Tony Snell when you put up all zeros, even though you go on the court for like 20-ish minutes. I watched Hope run all the way over to mid lane. He stopped up at that mid lane. Oh, hold on. Now it's Elk. Elk wants to time the shot.
Elk.
He's walking down Kyle. It's flash for flash. Elk throwing autos at Hope. Problem is Tarzan's here. Bullet time turn. Crescent guard knocks Tarzan out of his dash, and now Elk can throw down more autos. JJ, ultimate protector there onto Elk, and everybody's going to walk out battered and bruised.
That is a lot of resources burned for both teams on the bottom side here with Dragon on the map. But once again, it's the inside track coming in from this Xin Zhao. Shanks looks to try and punish Xiaohu, but this is going to be hard to punish. For now, I believe this is just going to be an objective going over to Waybo. This is going to be almost impossible for AL to contest.
I know you're talking to me about how this is like a slow cooking comp for Waybo, but all I've seen these last couple minutes is Xiaohu get accelerated, Elk getting really critical time alone by himself on that bot side. It's only 12 minutes. AL have the gold lead. They have a ton of it in Tarzan, but again, Cayman, we have to keep emphasizing that there is going to be a point where you cannot stop a Lulu shielded Swain next to a Zahed. Like, it's not going to work for this AL comp.
Yeah, I mean, you say Lulu shielded Swain next to a Zahed. We can't ignore Yunara, especially when it's Elk on Yunara in the late game as well. I mean, this is a comp that is really scary to have to deal with. AL does have the gold lead right now, and it is in the right spot. Neferi is essential towards this team's success, but the setup has to be there, and that's where we really need to keep an eye out for Shanks and Flandra, these solo laners in particular, to continue to grow their leads. Shanks staying neutral. Flandra not with the biggest lead in the world right now. Shanks, as I speak of him, takes a couple of tower shots here, just for fun, just limit testing a little bit against this Swain, but Xiaohu really is going to be a bit of a problem for sure.
Yeah, I not used to seeing pro players channel taunts on their enemy turrets. That's something we have to get a bit used to. But like you mentioned, limit testing. There's always room to limit test. Hey, we're starting to limit test how can we set into these lane swaps that we used to miss so bad for 2025. As they got Elk and Arha off to the top side here, hammering on to the tier 1 turret. Good wards are going to spot Tarzan kind of hovering towards Flandra, trying to alleviate some of that pressure. As Elk and Arha, they nearly catch Flandra on the reset, but he'll reset the lane matchups himself. His bot lanes will run top lane. Man, it feels like 2025 again, just, a couple minutes later than we were used to.
Thank goodness it's a couple minutes later than we were used to. Sorry to all the lane swap enjoyers in chat. But I'm glad we're highlighting Tarzan at the bottom of your screen. Man, have we talked a lot about Tarzan in the playoffs. He was outplayed by Jeje in game number 1. I don't think there is any conversation about that, but he has the chance to turn that around on a carry champion. Neferi's been good for him throughout this year, and he was good on Neferi last year as well, but this is really a massive game for him to prove that he still is that player that deserved to have won MVP, that is still considered arguably the best player, maybe outside of Knight, in the entire region. With the way that he can perform, he has all the tools necessary to be able to do so. See if he can make that play happen here on the bot side on Zika.
I mean, they have an inkling of Tarzan maybe here. Jed's just going to read it well, but I want to give them props. There is all AL vision here. They don't have vision on JJ, who gets over the wall perfectly, and that's immediately going to ruin the dive. Flandra looks for a JJ flash forward. When he comes light, he gets the slow. Flandra should get knocked up as he pops the dominance, but Zika gets the pullback here. Flandra cannot heal in time. JJ is reading all of the Tarzan plays like a book in this series right now, and it thwarts him again.
It's another huge fight for Waybo, not only because they stop an aggressive play from AL, but it's more gold going into priority areas. This Zahen is going to be an issue. Trinity Force completed on the top side for him. This Renekton was the one part of the comp that I felt the most confident in for AL. That is not how it has panned out so far. We see Zika now even trying to punish Shanks on the top side with that aggression. He's looking really, really good on this champ.
We need to see an AL fight set up in their stature, because the signs are just continuing to point towards a worrying trend for the split number one seed. As Tarzan's gonna jump over the wall, but Elk says, hello, I've got damage for you too, buddy, as he transcends and just backs Tarzan off and takes Hope down under his turret. There's the wild growth. It will be a trade. Elk goes a bit too far forward, but Jenja's there to cover. Tarzan looks for the re-engage as Kyle shows up. Crescentguard's gonna come down. The Pop Blossom's too late. The dogs have been sent back to the pound. Another win for Waybo, and it's again Jenja at the right place at the right time.
It's Jeje, but it's Elk, and Elk continues to show off in this series to be as greedy and selfish as he possibly can be, and I mean that in the most positive way I can possibly say it. Elk is looking like a superstar on the Rift right now, gets himself a big kill onto the Yunara. While Tarzan does pull one back, that is a huge shutdown going over to the other side, and where was that 2K gold lead for AL now? It is completely disintegrated as we see from this play. Hope and Kyle were already chunked out before this started. Hope feels comfortable because Tarzan's over the wall and he has the barrier, but the barrier expires. Tarzan misses everything onto Elk, and it's a free kill. It doesn't really matter that you trade here. That's more gold going relevantly into the pocket of Tarzan. You would have loved to have not burned the flash there, but of course, not too bad, all things considered, and especially the kill going to Xin Zhao.
Oh, here we go.
Pretty big. We'll see if Tarzan can turn it back.
Tarzan's angry, and he's feeling the pressure, knowing he has all the gold, and he needs to make more of these plays, but it's once again, just like those early levels, Zika walks off the gank. Will have to secede control of this top lane tier 1 turret, but it's still a trade. JJ immediately onto the third Drake of the game, and will trade raw gold for a scaling advantage to Waybo.
Yeah, I really like this from Waybo. Starting to stack these dragons is going to make things much easier for them as the game continues to go along. It's an okay trade for AL. I actually really like their Rift Herald usage in this game, but they don't want Rift Herald. They want Zika still on the top side.
It's just, Tarzan now, he jumps over the wall, he takes a couple of turret shots. It's the flash out of Zika, sure, but there's nothing really valuable being traded for that dragon, and where is the rest of Waybo? They move on up the river, and now they get the Herald. There's nothing AL can do to answer this.
What happened to the AL I loved? This team is not making good decisions here in the mid game. They are trying to target this Sehen, who doesn't even have a shutdown right now. I understand that there's no ultimate on that top side, and you do get the flash, but that Rift Herald could have been massive for your ability to get some gold back in this game, especially on some priority targets, and it's not going to go your way. Waybo's got a bunch of gold that they are sitting on. They are stacking these dragons. It's going to be an Ocean Soul for Swain, Sehen, Lulu. I need to make that as clear as I possibly can. Like, this is a terrifying situation for anyone's Legend, and they need to keep their foot on the gas.
It's such a tough spot to be in, right, where you have to continually be proactive, but there's a line where it becomes, you know, desperation. It's the toughest line every team has had to face, but like you mentioned, AL is a team that we have of past been confident in spots like this, but everything's seemingly still crumbling. That was a flash out of Kyle, one of your main playmakers.
And it's just more resources getting burned for absolutely nothing on the map. AL are falling apart in terms of their decision making. I will say, we're being pretty negative towards anyone's Legend. They are very much still in this game. Tarzan has 4 kills on Nefiri, and if you can burst down that Yunara early on in the fight, while Swain and Sehen and even Xin Zhao to an extent are going to be difficult to deal with, you have enough damage, and your front line is pretty difficult to deal with as well, to the point where you are very much still going to be able to win these exchanges. But Waybo just have a lot of tools in their tool belt right now that they can use, especially forcing fights if they continue to stack these dragons. That's why I really like it for them, is because as these, you know, dragons continue to get stacked, of course it is free stats for Waybo. It's also free fights around major objectives.
And every one of those fights where Xiaohu can come back with one of these critical items, it's just, again, oh, Kyle gonna get caught here. When it comes lightning, Knockup's gonna come.
He's just dead.
A Crescent Guard down. Kyle's just dead. No flash, he already had to burn it, and the best players in their role from a year ago in the LPL continue to look more and more mortal in this series.
And let's not forget, they have the Rift Herald, because Tarzan pulled off of that to go for the play on the top side, so it's not just Kyle falling, it's going to be a ton of gold going down here.
Oh my god,
Tarzan, though, going in.
On to Elk, he just immediately gets polymorphed, has to burn the ult to go untargetable, but he barely escapes with his life. What is that look from Tarzan?
I mean, it's just not respecting Arha, I guess. That's the only thing that can come to mind is not respecting the fact that he can immediately get shut down in that engage. Yes, you kind of delay some of the gold being taken here in the mid lane. The charge does go off on the Rift Herald, but they're not able to get more than, I believe, 1 plate in terms of, you know, that charge. But at the very least, it gives them the tempo and the priority in the middle of the map, and pings are going down. It's going to give them even more in terms of this fight, potentially. As Baron is spawned, Kyle is caught again.
It's deja vu again. He's just getting walked down by Elk. I mean, he's got his pocket Lulu. He fears nobody, and Kyle refuses to learn from his previous transgressions, and now Waybo are just going to keep looking for more here. They go for a mid lane player on the tier 1, but they got a 1v2 in the bot side as well as Flandra. He has the dominance, but it means nothing. Here comes the L response towards the mid lane, but how are you going to dash a Galio and a Fury into Xiaohu when he has Demonic Ascension popped and a Lulu next to him? They at least get him to flash away from Shanks and Tarzan. But these are very fleeting wins as Waybo have swung the gold lead way over into their category.
I mean, the prize of the play is Swain Flash, where you're giving up bodies left and right throughout the entire map. It's falling apart for anyone's legend. Dragon is spawning in under a minute here. It's Ocean sole point for Waybo. They can force a fight around this area, and wow, you love your close quarters fight here coming in from Galio and Nico and Misfortune. You have a ton of ways to be able to fight in these, you know, river situations. You're also jumping into a Swain that should have ult up by the time that this fight ends up happening. And then, of course, a Yunara who has definitely started to get online. Waybo have full pressure and will establish a vision here as we once again just see Kyle getting caught.
I just love it. Elk's like, you know, you take cleanse on 80 carry because you fear CC come from the enemy team. You rarely use it offensively. The way Elk's playing right now, regular season MVP in our eyes, K-Man Elk plays with that aggressiveness on the cleanse here. But as you called out, the Dragon is on the map here. JJ, a bit far forward, trying to clear out some wards to get vision here for Waybo, but Tarzan backs him off. Both top laners away off to the screen, dealing with their own lane, but they have those empowered teleports whenever they want to join. But Waybo, interesting decision here. It looks like they're going to sack the Dragon to get the mid-tier 1 turret. Yeah, they're going to sack Soul Point for some immediate gold.
Oh, we got a fight going on the top side, too.
Ultimate
Just
chicken.
A bit of an ultimate trade. Yeah, it ends up being chicken. I thought something potentially could have happened there, but yes, it is just the mid-tier 1-4 Dragon trade. I don't hate this entirely for Waybo. Would have preferred that they forced that fight, but they all still are strong right now. There is the fight, though.
Shanks. JJ dashes after him, gets the knock up here. Xiaohu gonna wait for that Demonic Ascension to come back up. His bullet time does come down, but JJ knocks it out of the park there. No bullet time and a dead Shanks here. Xiaohu steps back forward with the never move, trying to get rid of Hope. The pop blossom from Kyle is used defensively. Zika flashes after and pulls Hope right into the waiting arms of Elk again, as Hope drops with very minimal impact once more. And Waybo show that stacked up as 5, they are lethal.
And Tarzan just has to sit there and watch on this Neferi because Arha is playing this Lulu so well. If he jumps in, he immediately gets polymorphed. The knockup ends up interrupting the ultimate as well if he wants to go for it. It's so hard for this jungler who has 4 kills to even interact with the game at the current moment. And Waybo are taking full advantage of that with the aggressive plays that we are seeing. We get another replay here. Shanks just not understanding that while he is tanky, he is certainly not tanky enough to be in the spot that he is in right now. It's mistake after mistake. You have the ultimate coming out on Jeja, and it's a phenomenal interrupt. Jeja is having a fantastic start to the series here through the first 2 games, and the moment that he tags Hope, it's over. That champion doesn't have the health bar to be able to survive. Very well played by Zika. Another player is having a great game on the Zehen. And Waybo are now up 2,000 gold. They were down for a majority of the early game. It does not matter. They have rallied, and they are in full control.
And where is the majority of that gold lead? On the scaling Yunara into that Misfortune. It's again the matchup that we were so critical of. K-Man, your words really stuck with me now that we're in this spot. If either one of these 80 carries can return to the form and be a reliable threat like they were in the regular season, it can make the difference. That is a 3-item Yunara at 24 minutes. You tell me who stepped back up into that form from the regular split.
I mean, Elk's chasing down Nico throughout this entire game. Nico has to use wards to keep herself alive throughout all of this, and that is worst case scenario. Waybo now setting up around this Baron. They can burn this incredibly fast with the Yunara and the lead that you have here. Jeja as well, gonna make this a big problem. Dragon not on the map for over 2.5 minutes. This is definitely gonna be the Baron dance at this point. AL have to be so scared of trying to walk in to a comp where if you make one mistake, you're gonna get punished immediately.
Have a look on the JJ, but again, it's He's daring you to hop into a Crescent Guard knock-up or an Elk that transcends with this Lulu. I like the polymorph you called out. Tarzan's just finding it's so uncomfortable in his own jungle, as Elk is going to step up and throw a couple autos his way. That wasn't even transcended Yunara form of that 3-item power spike. That's no Fiend Hunter bolts auto, and Tarzan's down to half HP getting pushed out of his own space.
It's just so difficult now for AL to try and find space to get themselves into a position. One of the reasons we like this comp for AL is because if they do have control over the river, you actually have a lot of ways to punish IL. Okay, he's fine. He's okay.
But JJ?
Not?
Tarzan and Flandra are going to jump onto him, but Tarzan, I mean, he's losing the trade into JJ. Elk's going to flash over. Tarzan has to flash away. Flandra can't get this kill done on his own. The bullet time just hits on Elk for about half HP. Tarzan goes right back in, but the wild growth and the polymorph shuts down Tarzan again. They go after Xiao, who goes into the stasis. He's getting the hero, but the hero's entrance cuts down the Swain. AL are able to section off Waybo and cut them down to size. One measly kill as all 10 of our players show up for the bout.
Yeah, it's very well played from anyone's Legend. That can be a very dangerous fight if played incorrectly, but Xiaohu's just not tanky enough to be able to survive 4 members collapsing on him, even if he does have the stopwatch at this point in the game. Gonna be broken from there, so Zhonya's not completed. He will not have this if there is a potential Baron or Dragon fight in 1 minute. That is a really important cooldown for Swain that is not going to be available. Overall, it's a really nice pullback for anyone's Legend, and a bit of a mistake for Waybo that they might pay for.
At the very least, they do have some ultimates that will be on their side outside of mid lane. Crescent Guard, Transcendence are all coming back up. Grim Deliverance is still available there. But we're still about 40 seconds out. I expect that Pop Blossom to be there. Maybe the bullet time if AL can do enough stalling. So a positive sign finally for AL. It feels like, what, the last 10 minutes has been all interesting decisions and Waybo taking control. But it's these late game fights that always decide things in the LPL.
Yeah, I love the call out here as we get some aggressive posturing and positioning. Dragon is going to be on the map. This could likely be the game-ending fight. Whoever takes it here, take the entire game. Keep your eyes on Arhat. Whoever he polymorphs and whoever he ults is going to be in a really strong position.
Elk always looking to advance and step up thanks to his pocket Lulu. Like you called out, the polymorphs, the wild growths, the Mikhails is available. Despite there not being a cleanse, Elk still feels ever confident, strutting his stuff. As Waybo use him and JJ to kind of push AL further down the river. Neither top laner looking for a TP angle just yet. Maybe finally it'll be Zika. It looks like he might just try and walk down. Nope, both top laners will take a recall, maybe try and get last buy-in before they make it down towards this dragon. Kyle's got a flank set up with a jump onto Shanks first. Good taunt to get JJ off him as Tarzan pokes and prods. Kyle into the background, gets a 2-man pop blossom onto Elk. He dashes out of the hero's entrance. The bullet time's not going to hit anybody. Elk is protected. He had to get back into this fight to start wielding down hammers. He does, but Flandra takes one of Erha. Sahu has to flash back over the wall. Flandra's going to go after him. Grim Deliverance from Sika. They go after Elk, but Tarzan doesn't get to him. Elk over the wall, cuts down Flandra to size. Sika revives. They get Sahu on the way out. Tarzan gets one. Hope steps up and trades out Elk. Finally, Hope showing up to this series, and it saves a tight fight between our two teams.
A 4-for-4 on both sides here for AL and Waybo Gaming. What a chaotic fight that ends up really equalizing out. Zika going to push down the mid lane, going to try and get some gold here as he actually uses his Demolish to take this entire turret here for Zehen. But with Tarzan still on the map, Dragon is very much available for anyone's Legend. That would be sole point. This is massive if they can pick it up. He's just gonna take the crab and leave. Not gonna risk it here with Zehen on the map, even if that ultimate has been burned.
Shanks, first one up on the respawns alongside JJ. Let's go back through this fight because, okay, man, there's so many moments that swing it right at the end here. Clutch, late skill shots, but it's Kyle that really starts things off.
Yeah, one thing I really want to give AL a lot of credit for is understanding where to put target priority in this fight. Look at Flandra. He doesn't go onto the AD carry. He kills the Lulu immediately because he understands that if Lulu is down, all of a sudden these big tanks aren't nearly as effective. They're able to at least clean up some of the fight, but Dragon has been started again immediately.
Yeah. It's Waybo on it. How does AL work their way in here? They don't. They say, this is not for Soul. We are not flipping the game here with Baron on the other side of the map. And Waybo just kind of brute force their way into Ocean Soul Point. And K-Man, again, back to something you said earlier. Swain, Lulu, Zehen with Ocean Soul. Good night, AL.
That is the scary thing. You have 2 Ocean Dragons. It's not even Soul yet, but this is already becoming a bit of a statistical problem for anyone's Legend because Tarzan is your damage. Now, I want to say, Flandra is in a decently scary spot. If he can get to that 3rd item relatively quickly, he's going to be a bit of a menace in these team fights, finding his way onto the backline. We saw what happens when Kyle can get the flank, and Hope wasn't even really able to land the bullet time in that fight. There are things that definitely can still be improved, and we already saw a 4 for 4. This can definitely still be an AL win if they play this calm, cool, and collected, but a lot of this is likely either going to come down to this inevitable Baron fight, or it's going to come down to a Dragon take. Guardian Angel completed now on Nefiri. That could be huge.
Zanya's was already there for Xiaohu, so that's going to be big for stalling out those fights. I'm looking at Summoners once again, who've no flash on the Swain, or either AD carry. Those are going to be valuable targets to go after. Arha has his flashes heal as Mikhail's back up, so that Lulu you called out as being such a huge priority for fights, maybe over the AD carry, will have that escapability. You see Waybo setting up shop with some vision here, and then once again harassing Tarzan away from ever getting in position to look for one of these engages.
The hard part here for Waybo is that they do have to kind of hold on to this river. The game becomes more difficult if they give over any vision control to anyone's Legend. They've done a great job so far, but can't overstep and make some mistakes here. Pan to the top side, Zika. Just gonna be clearing out. It looked like Tarzan was going over the wall there, but gonna be just fine. That's what we call
wave watching. Wave watching,
exactly.
Making sure our pros still claim all their minions, all right? The camera's not on them all the time, Cayman. We got to keep them honest. Make sure that CS per minute's still high.
How am I going to know if he misses cannon if we don't have vision of him on the cannon minion? So that's always good here. Yeah, you know, I think Zika's had a great game so far on the Zehen, and that's another big part of this puzzle. We've talked so much, I think, about Jeja and Elk being excellent, Arha and Xiaohu being basically unkillable together as a duo. This Zehen has been really excellent so far for Waybo Gaming. Zika can continue to find his way onto the backline of these fights and continue to land those pulls. Things can get tough, but Waybo are getting flanked here.
We're looking to try and put Kyle in a position to get onto Arha, right? That's the big grab. Elk or Arha with this Pop Blossom can really set AL on the right track forward. Oh, TP flank coming across here. This is that Zahen from Zika. AL are kind of starting to get cornered here. The slow lands onto Hope Xiao, who has them cornered. Neither soul lane can get here. It's the hero instance come through the Pop Blossom defensively from Kyle. There's the Pop Blossom turnaround with the bullet time, but it's Hope already cut down. Flandra goes after one. He'll finally find the kill onto Arha, but that means Elk is fully unleashed. The GA's taken away. Tarzan never gets a shot in this fight. It's Waybo playing the map better, playing the flanks better, and getting themselves a clutch Baron that could decide this game too.
Waybo Gaming continue to keep their foot on the pedal, and they drive themselves right into a Baron take in this game. We thought their lead was big before. What a flank from Zika to get right on top of the AD carry. Tarzan not going to be in the area to even try and steal this. Shanks is going to pick up tier 1 mid as a consolation prize, but that's all it will be. With Baron on 4 members of Waybo Gaming, they are in full control of this game to try and take over, and Zika's not even done here on Shanks.
Shanks playing on that range of the phase rush again. Tarzan stealing away camps. Man, it feels like we have swapped our team nameplates. This looks like a classic AL flank. It's Waybo doing this to AL.
And it's perfectly played, right? Like, Zika does everything he needs to, which is to completely disrupt this backline. At no point does Hope ever feel comfortable pressing bullet time until he realizes he is already dead. And at that point, he gets very little value from one of the biggest ultimates in the entire game. Again, it's a good flank from Flandra. He understands that he has to take out this Lulu, but his team is destroyed at this point. Where is all the gold? It's on this Nefiri, who cannot find a single way to get into this fight. It is so hard to play out this comp from AL's perspective, and they are getting punished hard for it.
And now they're on to their last leg, K-Man. They can't let this Ocean Soul go over. They're going for a bush play onto Jeja, but he has the GA, he has his team behind him. And Tarzan dashes right over the wall that he thought was the advantage for him onto that pick play. The Baron March continuing on this bot side, but it's all a bit of a ruse here from Waybo. The real prize is this Dragon that hits the Rift in about 10 seconds with a half HP Tarzan.
And that is the biggest concern. Might not even get there. Jeja looking very aggressive. The biggest problem for Waybo is that sometimes they can struggle to move forward. Jeja can neutralize that just by landing some abilities, but they have full control over this river. Dragon has spawned. Ocean Soul would be a death sentence for AL.
I don't even think they get in here. They're not moving anywhere towards it. AL are completely stagnant. They are giving up Ocean Soul Tarzan's backing in way disrespectful positions. AL are floundering like a fish out of water, and it's now Kyle that gets caught using the pop loss, but the Crypto Rivalence is better. Arha's there to power up the Zahen, who has a revive as Flandra knocks him down, but JJ re-engages, and Elk pops Flandra with those feet under bolts, dashes over the wall, and he wants more. Hungry to cut down every member of AL, auto after auto. 3 members leave to tell the tale, but their base is the next target for an Ocean Soul-bound Waybo.
Slayer, Zahen is in the middle of 5 people by himself, and you call it as AL getting caught. That's how dangerous Waybo are as they march down on this bottom side looking for the end.
It is the Split 1 #1 seed. One of the best teams the LPL had in 2025 against a new look Waybo. And they are a couple Nexus turrets away from putting the end of AL season 1 game away. Shanks is caught by another never move. Xiaohu goes into the Demonic Ascension and dares any of AL members to stand in his death-defying grasp. All of AL flounder. It's only Tarzan to watch his series crumble. 2-0 to Waybo.
Waybo Gaming. Don't tell me the odds. I don't want to know them. I'm walking into this series with the knowledge that I am better. That is Waybo Gaming here today. Every macro decision, every team fight, every small skirmish, Waybo is winning the draft. They're winning everywhere across the board. It is clear who the better team has been through the first 2 games, and let me tell you, it's not anyone's legend.
Yeah, anyone's legend has a giant red alarm blaring in their coaching room. I'm not asking you a panic meter, okay, man. We're at 10. This is 10. This is 10. We are there. We are at the epicenter of problems here for anyone's legend. But again, the spin here is that AL definitely makes some questionable decisions in draft and in this game, but Waybo, it's the execution that's just so on point. They understand exactly when their comps come online, exactly when they can look for fights. And I'll say it one more time to emphasize it. You know a team's playing well when they get those creative TP flanks, those pincer moves. That's a team with confidence, and that's a Waybo team with confidence that we have rarely seen, not just in Split 1 K-Man, but maybe for the past year and plus.
I just am so proud of this Waybo Gaming team. It's not over. I'm not trying to sit here and say that they've done it or that they've accomplished their goal just yet, but the fact that they showed up here today and played like this through the first 2 games, this is everything you could want to see out of Waybo Gaming. This is their playstyle taken to its natural extreme, and that's what we've been begging for. We've been waiting for this version of Waybo Gaming for so long, and it really does feel like we're getting it. Again, I know that I don't want to harp too much on the draft because, you know, there are a lot of ways to be able to make this work if you're anyone's legend because you did get gold on the Neferi, but it's just the creativity. It's the Swain mid. It's understanding that we can bridge into the Yunara. It's looking at the top lane situation and saying, well, if your Renekton's going to have a lot of priority, we might as well go all in on this heal comp and go for something like a Zahen that has a free revive, even if we don't have as much engage, because we know we can execute on it. That is confidence. That is an understanding of where your strengths lie. And again, Waybo has come into this series with a better game plan, with a better understanding of who they are, and they are definitely succeeding for it.
And just to your point, this is my fun favorite game now to do with you, K-Man, is use your words to re-emphasize, but I'm now going to use your words against you, okay? You said the series isn't over just yet. Before we got into Game 2, you were saying, what was the quote? I think it was, reverse sweeps are near impossible for players of this caliber. That's what AL have to do now. So
yeah. It's actually insane. I do want to, I don't have an official statistic or anything like this. I definitely should have prepped one. Not that I had one ready here, but I mean, I remember looking a couple of years ago, reverse sweeps in the playoffs in major regions, it's less than 10% of series that reach a 2-0 start. That is what AL is going up against in a series like this. Absolutely ridiculous odds right now in terms of being able to fight their way back. And quite frankly, they've shown nothing on the Rift to show that they have like, the ability to fight back in this series. It's not just that they're playing bad or that Waybo has a better game plan. They got caught over and over again. Their mental is breaking right now, and it's clear that they are on the back ropes.
Shattering. I mean, Game 1, that end game, like, kind of swing is where Waybo came across. Like, we were talking about Game 1, like, praising AL classic map moves to really expand gold leads. They had a great early game. This highlight reel we're going to roll, like, this and one other fight were close wins for AL. they were fine in the first 10 minutes. Outside of that, I mean, we saw the writing on the wall way before it really happened. That's how unconfident, I guess, to make up a word, we were that AL were going to be able to make this game 2 win.
I mean, even this play that we're seeing on the screen, the first big fight of the game, this was a 3v2 where you got 3 kills on Nefiri, and I'm walking out of the fight going, uh-oh, that's bad. That means you've set yourself up poorly. If you get 3 free kills at 10 minutes on Nefiri, you should be feeling great. If you're feeling bad, you put yourself in a spot where you did not need to be in. And of course, we do want to give credit where credit is due. It wasn't just the draft. You do have to go out there and execute. I think all 5 members of Waybo had phenomenal games in this one. I really don't think there's one player that ended up letting the team down by any stretch of the imagination, and some big moments from everybody involved. But it was so much easier to imagine a world where they ended up winning if they got gold than it was for anyone's legend. And this is the thing that we've talked about with AL that's been different for them, is while their macro has been good in the regular season, it has felt a bit different. And, you know, I don't want to bring up a preseason kind of conversation topic, but the coaching staff is different here. And a lot of the coaching staff was talked about so heavily. You're down 0-2 in a playoff series. You need to rally. You need to compose yourself, be able to breathe, and be able to rebound. Is this team going to be able to do it? Because under this version of AL, we haven't seen them be able to do that just yet.
No, we haven't. And to be honest, I can't really remember how many times last year's AL was even tested in a way like this, like a reverse sweep. The few times they were, I can't remember a time they went down 0-2 in a best of 5. I mean, we could maybe look up those numbers and figure that out later, but even past like the coaching staff conversation, this is uncharted territory for these 5 players to be down 0-2 in a spot like this with like their season on the line. So we'll have to see where AL goes, because the conversations will evolve even further. I'll save that for Draft 3 conversations. For now, K-Man, I want to try and at least give you time this time to theory craft on who player of the game should be.
I think player of the game is real hard in this one. I think there are so many good options. I would lean towards Jeje again in the jungle here on this Xin Zhao. I thought he had a phenomenal game. He was the only engage on that entire team, and yet somehow, some way, as Xin Zhao, he was finding ways to disrupt the bullet time, get onto the back line, make things work. They're going to give it to Xiaohu, though. 64% KP, massive moments on the Swain, especially early on in this game to be able to bring things back. Special shout out to Elk, who once again is proving that he is almost certainly the best AD carry in the LPL. It's a team effort. Really, this is a Waybo player of the game, like if you just want to, take everything into account, but I certainly can't be mad at Xiaohu winning it here. Yeah,
and, to continue that train, we came into today, like, talking about Arha. We were hyping him up a bit, but we, again, back to what we were talking about earlier. We said before the series, like, Arha feels very one-trick pony with engage supports, right? What does he do in this game? He plays a really good Lulu. And in the evolving meta of supports that feels like 2026 came in, being able to have those Lulu performances, those Renata games, those Seraphine games, that's what really can evolve you as a support in these conversations. And Arha is a name with Vampire that we're trying to throw up as potential next up in the support role.
Arha has shown so many flashes of being somebody that can be a big deal at this level. We are begging for someone to break through in the support position. And you have someone like Kyle on the other side of this matchup, a bona fide world-class support who, yes, is underperforming, but Arha has been better than him across 2 games. If that keeps up, it's looking dire for AL.
JJ outclassing Tarzan, Elk outclassing Hope, and Arha outclassing Kyle. I'd be called crazy. I'd be being called crazy if I had thrown those statements out 24 hours ago. That is the reality, folks. We're going to go back to a very critical break for anyone's legend, because for the first time in what feels like forever, they are 1 loss away from a season end. Let's see if they can bounce back and start the reverse sweep on the other side of this intermission. Welcome back to even more uncharted territory here at LPL English, as we have a statement to make that has rarely been made here, especially, well, never made in the lower bracket, really. Anyone's Legend is one game away from bowing out at 4th place, which would be their lowest finish ever since this 5 that we've seen constructed since the start of 2025 came together has ever finished. If Waybo Gaming can get one more win, which would be a sweep over AL, which is one of those top 3 teams we feel like they can't beat. Let's jump right into that draft, K-Man, as we know the stakes here, because I really want you to start theory crafting on what we need to see AL do to get on the right winning ways, because they kind of failed Game 2 draft as well compared to the Game 2 on its own.
Yeah, I mean, in game number 2, you finally are drafting for some priority, but the priority is so specific. You're playing through this Nefiri in the jungle that basically has to get fed, and if you get to the later part of the game, you have no way to really get onto the backline. I need to see more options get put in by AL here. I actually wouldn't hate them picking counter pick. I'm usually a big advocate for first pick. I think first pick generally is just better in almost any instance, but I think counter pick here could be big because of some of the gambits that you can pull off. A lot of things are still available. Orianna, one of the big ones, you know, to me, kind of the biggest pick of the patch right now that has obviously been taken out in the first couple games, but I think specifically you're looking at Vi Talia as a combo, as well as Varus being on the board. Same thing with Corki. I think that there are multiple combinations of those that if you just leave them up and you're on the second side there and you can get a couple of those picks, you're probably looking better than the other side. So I'd be interested to see what AL wants to do, but at the end of the day, we're in a spot where Game 2 draft left a lot of options available.
We'll see, especially if the mid lane options being left up can be catapulted into some of our players' pockets. But again, it's the same look for Waybo. They are ironclad in this approach here, K-Man. No Orianna, no Aurora, which I, one more time, really want to praise Xiaohu, because those are 2 champions that were a total crutch for him in the regular season, and now, I mean, I'm loving it the way he's playing the Swain, the Yone. It's vintage Xiaohu.
Yeah, Talia off the board here. This basically forces a Ryze ban if you really need to take it off the board here, because giving over Ryze without having any sort of macro answer would be a pretty big problem for Waybo, in my opinion. That is 3 mid lane bans. If you do want to go somewhere else, I guess theoretically you could ban some more, you know, tanky, aggressive, like, types of junglers. Things like the, you know, Poppy that can really make some havoc happen. The Wukong that I think could make some havoc happen. I think those are bans that are both possible. I just would really not like to give over the Ryze here. It's going to be the Bard as the playmaker ban for Kyle. You know, I understand you don't want him on something comfortable. Varus and Ryze still both left available. We'll see what they want to prioritize.
They take the Ryze, or they take the Varus. They're going to give the Ryze there over to Xiaohu. So despite all the talks about him, you know, flexing his champion mastery over the pool, looks like he will get back to stock standard play on this Ryze. And it's AL, I think, you know, the logic here came in for the Varus is we really need to put Hope in the best position to carry. We did him no favors with that misfortune draft in Game 2.
Yeah, I actually love getting Varus here. This is something that we talked a little bit about off air here, is that I think this is a great pick because not only does it get you something that Hope can be super consistent on, it's been his most played champion this year, but it also kind of incentivizes a Jhin pick from Elk, and anything that can get Elk off of these hyper carries, I will take at this point. Like, whatever you got to do in order to do that. It will be the Nocturne locked in as the answer to Ryze. I really like this duo. I think you can open up the map really quickly, and Varus being an immobile AD carry, kind of threatened by this. Cassio, Anivia, the likely answers in the mid lane here. It's just kind of your preference. Shanks has played a lot more Cassiopeia. I do think most of the time this is going to be the better pick because it gives you more damage in the later part of the game. But generally, these have been the 2 answers to Ryze, and certainly makes sense if you want to go in that direction. But Tarzan going back to the well. He said, I don't care that we didn't win on the Nefiri. I'm going to go back to a carry in game number 3.
You know, I'll say this just for vibes, a vibe check. Late champion switches at the very last second never inspire good vibes, especially if you're switching out of role. What I will say is, if you're picking, you know, 2 picks back-to-back, the vibes are fine. So immediately, I'm going to rescind my point here. We still get the Cassio for Shanks, and it's still Tarzan calling his shot. And that's what's most inspiring here. Like, AL need to live or die by Tarzan. Him going to their carry jungler, fine. But it is the hyperscales AD carry once again still coming through for Elk. It just needs more time to cook than either of the other 2 he's played in this series.
I think Sivir is like the best thing you can possibly draft here if you are Elk for Waybo Gaming. I think with the comp that you're staring down on the other side, it is just so scary to have to play this without a spell shield, and you gain a little bit of self-sustain there. You can shove waves relatively easily. The question now is, what do these teams want to ban out? Waybo will obviously have the first crack at this second phase of bans. I think tanks on the top side, to me, need to go. You know, I am scared of the Renata, but I think that 2v2 can kind of be neutralized, and Kyle has a lot of options still left up on the board. I am very scared of something like Ornn coming out from Anyone's Legend and just really making this as stable of a comp as they could possibly make it. That, to me, would be my priority. I think you can say similar things about Waybo's comp as well, though, perhaps potentially wanting a tank on that top side for some freer engage. For now, it is just going to be that bot lane priority focus with all of these supports kind of taken out of the first 2 games.
Came out of that game 2 praising Arha for kind of starting to shed the mold of can really only lean on engaged supports. He has that great Lulu performance. He's a very forgettable Yuumi performance next to this Elk Sivir that I do have to at least mention for the Yuumi points. But we will see him likely foraying back into a pretty engaged support heavy role here. The Renata ban, like, this is screaming to me that they want to just have him slam Rell or Leona. Or even maybe like a Thresh look, right? Now with the Nautilus ban out of the way.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Rell Leona make a lot of sense here. I think Rakan could make some sense here as well.
Rakan too.
I think that's another champion that I really am looking at for both of these teams that I think could be pretty highly prioritized in this game. I think either way, it's going to be somebody that can make plays on the map, likely for both of these teams. AL might really go out of left field and potentially go for an Enchanter here. I don't think it's likely, but it definitely could be possible if you really wanted to go for a more dominant 2v2 with the Varus, but it's going to be the Jax taken off the board. Tanks are available, so is the Rek'Sai. I think that is a really important thing here for both of these sides, to see if, especially AL, maybe want to go in that direction. But Ornn and K'Sante, 2 massive tanks, definitely still on the board if Waybo want to go in that direction.
There's that Rakan. Good shot by UK Man to really pair up with this Nocturne playmaking with that valuable charm. And I'm glad you kind of emphasized the Rek'Sai here, because despite AL being with their backs against the wall, we still do favor a lot of their innate champion pools as Fearless goes along, and that Rek'Sai for Flandre is a big focal point of that. He'll have to blind here into Zika as we do get the Rell lock in for Kyle, who's looking to bounce back from a very bland playmaking game from Kyle that's becoming more and more apparent in 2026.
This, to me, makes it less likely that it's Rek'Sai because he has to blind it, but it's still definitely possible. K'Sante's looking mighty good here. If it's me, and I'm just saying no worries about it, but might just be the Rek'Sai lock-in here and just not worrying about it too much. Again, back to that comfort for Flandre. This is his second most played champion across 2026 up until this point. There's not really consistent ways to be able to disengage on the side of AL, but man, if you get this Kiana Cassio rolling with a Varus to be able to fire these long-range arrows, that damage is coming through, and it's not like there's not a volatile comp on the side of Waybo either, even if they round it out with something more passive on the top side. This is going to be an explosive game, and you want to talk about explosions. Camille is on the Rift.
Hey, Hope Man, really tough misfortune angle last time. Good luck. That is a Nocturne ult, a Rakan ult, and a Camille ult. I don't care how much range Varus has, man. That is... I'm the AD carry guy, man. I can't help. That would make me just tell my team, guys, good luck. I'm not going to be effective.
Slayer, this level 6 spike from Waybo, this like 1.5, 2 item like area time, this mid game from Waybo, run. Like, get out of there. You're like, you gotta be scared because they can target anybody. It's Cassio Varus. You've got no mobility on your 2 main carries in this game if you are Anyone's Legend. Now, I do want to say, I think their early laning phases can actually be really effective. If they are able to generate some leads and get shove in, it can kind of take away some of the opportunities to play the map for Waybo, but they have to do that because I think the damage coming out from Waybo in this game is massive, and they have a lot of easy ways to get on their primary carries.
A very Uncharted Territory-esque game here for Anyone's Legends, but we applaud them for sticking to their guns. It's early tempo, Tarzan looking to carry. Surely they can't fall to a slow-scaling comp from Waybo once again. But this is a different beast of a Waybo Gaming squad that has shown up to this not only lower bracket, but to a matchup they are heavily pushed as the underdog in. It's, you know, you can't ignore the parallels this draft has to that Game 2-1, even with 10 different champions on the board. Let's see if it has a different result here for anyone's legend, and they're going to need the AL Gyos to help them bring it in.
Fan support definitely leaning in one direction over the other right now, and I think the series would generally agree with that assumption, with the way that things are playing out. It's actually going to be the double invade coming in from both of these junglers, both taking the Raptors on this side. It is the march to level 6 for both of them, but man, this Nocturne gets to level 6 early. Things could get quite dangerous. Hopefully they will at least have some vision on him at the current moment as we get these first initial clears for the junglers.
We have another exciting top lane matchup that obviously we touched on a little bit, but again, want to emphasize the fact that Flandra, in my mind, can claim to be the best Rek'Sai player in the world still on this champion, but he is yet to really match up with a Camille, which is a unique kind of lane demographic, K-Man, for you to try and diagnose like how this plays out.
Yeah, I actually am glad you passed that off to me, because I think this is a really fun laning phase to talk about. Camille is going to be so strong at this point in the game. This will get better for Rek'Sai. I think you're not really worried too much about the laning phase part of this. It's the Camille dive that you're incredibly terrified of if you are just going to make this happen, especially now with a vertical jungle happening. Vertical. Camille's going to have so much safety from this Nocturne early on in the game. And for AL, while their bot lane might be a little bit more protected, like, you're not going to be capitalizing all that much on a potential Sivir or Rakan. This is definitely something that I think favors Waybo, already going into this draft saying that, okay, well, you know, it's probably the best lane that AL have, to be quite frank. I think that the Cassio can do well individually, but not really a ton of kill pressure there without jungle intervention. This is going to need to be a big performance out of Tarzan, utilizing this pressure he's getting on the bottom side of the map.
Tarzan opening that 3-0 kill count in Game 2. The AL wanted to lean on. How valuable is it for AL and Tarzan to get back into that carry spot? Still need to give him time to farm, though. That's a great cancel from Arha. Kyle gets knocked out of his crash down. Heal for the speed up. Elk's starting to throw these balancing blazes. Gets the lethal tempo online. And, well, another one of those focal points for an AL turnaround you talked about is not going their way. It's Arha and Elk again that are just better in the 2v2.
It's a vertical jungle, and your bot lane has to back, and now Judge has mid lane on Shanks.
Yep, Shanks is going to get root, Prism root. Tarzan's nearby. Shanks is going to desperately flash towards his jungler with no mana. And it was a root out from Tarzan, but from bad to worse, flash off of your immobile Cassiopeia.
Slayer, I don't mean to panic. I really don't. It's way too early in the game to get concerned. But, like, when I think of when AL need to generate their leads, it's right now. It's like pre-level 6. It's the laning phases where they should be able to push out a lot of these waves and feel more aggressive to try and skirmish around this lack of Nocturne ultimate to be able to kind of react and move to a lot of these fights. This is not going to get easier for them. Flandra, you know, gonna have a little bit of an easier time. So he actually goes in here on the knockup.
Yeah, unraveled Earth below. There's no flash on this Camille, by the way. The Ignite for Zika. Luckily able to walk out, but Tarzan is on the hunt. Zika is not slowing down. He is hookshot all the way back to his tier 2 turret, knowing that Tarzan could be in the area. Zika not even in the brush. He walks all the way back to his tier 2 turret. Ultimate respect to Tarzan, who was hunting. It's Xiao's going to flash on Shanks in the mid lane.
No flash on Shanks.
Set up the root prism, and that is a snake with his head soon to be separated from his body. It's only a matter of time before Xiaohu, JJ, picks up first blood. Great revisit as JJ's Masterclass series just continues.
Slayer, you know why that's even more concerning? Because Nocturne's not even level 6 yet. Kyle looking.
Flash stun, crash out. Flandra gets the knock-up. Is there enough damage? Yes, the double grand entrance from Arha isn't there. Nice little find from Kyle, because that window was narrow.
That is a necessary play for anyone's legend. I was about to be in full panic mode because you have a flash burned on the Cassiopeia and you die before Nocturne hits level 6. You best believe he's coming back at level 6 if that's going to be the case. But luckily you get some gold back and specifically onto this Rek'Sai, who I think is in the best spot to continue to play through this top side. Like I said, I think this is the part of the game where it gets a little bit easier. You just need to survive those first couple levels. If you are the Rek'Sai in that 1v1 matchup, Camille's still going to be very relevant in this game, but definitely more of a pathway in, even if you have to burn the teleport to use it.
So the gold lead back towards even, but with this vertical jungle slant, I was curious if Zika was going to try and set up into a sort of proxy behind the wave. No, he'll just look for a reset here. We still have the first dragon on the rift, by the way. Tarzan was eyeing it, but he's got camps to clear, so he'll come off of that spot here. Is important to mention, even though Sivir is K-Man, kind of that weaker lane, needs a lot of time to scale, it is relatively hard to hold push in this bottom lane 2v2 because Sivir can just clear out those waves in an instant, and once the Essence Reaver comes around, there's no real tax onto the Sivir's kit to do so.
I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I brought up the fact that it's going to be really difficult from this point onwards to punish a lot of these laning phases, and it's why I emphasize top lane so much, because even with the Cassio being a counterpick to Ryze in the laning phase, hard to really capitalize on that, especially with no flash. Ult, though, for Hope, gonna get burned. Ult for cleanse.
Yep, and that's why Elk takes the cleanse here, as Spell Shield and Cleanse really nullifying Hope's playmaking, at least in the lane. But all that pressure for now, and with Xiaohu having to roam down for potential look towards the bot side, it means that Tarzan can kind of sneak in and start this first dragon. Jeje's in the area with Paranoia up, but there is no vision on Tarzan. And despite how slow-natured this clear was, with Hope's help, that will be the Cloud Drake secured by Tarzan. Waybo are making rumblings in this river. Arha in the area looking for a Grand Entrance knockup. Hope, good sidestep there. And there won't be a Realm Warp, there won't be a Paranoia. That global threat on the map for Waybo is not going to be capitalized on just yet, K-Man.
I like this from Waybo. You don't need to force this right now. I really don't think there's any reason to try and fight over this particular dragon. Your comp scales incredibly well going into the mid game. That's really the only objective that you can't feel comfortable fighting over, especially with Grubs coming up in just under a minute here. That's where you want to utilize, I think, a lot of your resources to try to find a lot of these picks. Both of these comps are really kind of specialized in trying to catch out the immobile parts of their comp when they're grouped up like that so consistently around an objective. It's going to be a lot more difficult. For now, though, you're looking at the lane states. We are seeing a lot of gold leads come in from Waybo, at least small ones, especially in the jungle here, but overall, really not a big difference in terms of where these two teams are at. AL still can look for one big fight. If you can get some gold onto priority carries, especially Tarzan in this game, it can neutralize a lot of the pressure that Waybo can put out in the mid game.
Every minute that this gold lead is a couple hundred towards Waybo, even, is a better investment and a worrying sign for AL as this game goes on. And I know we continue to be very, hypercritical of AL, the spot they're in down 0-2, hypercritical of even like their opening minutes here. But it's just important to remember where this team was regarded coming into 2026 with the same roster, the things they were able to accomplish domestically in the LPL against every team not named, Jackie Love, Top Esports, and BLG. To be here in this spot is way below the bar that has been set for this 5 set of players.
I mean, even if you just look at what they've accomplished this year, ignoring the fact that they're 5 running back from taking T1 to 5 games at Worlds last year. This was the #1 seed in the LPL in the regular season. They were dominant in terms of being able to clean up towards the end of the regular season. Basically, all their problems came at the beginning of January. Now they're sitting at a point where they just don't really have a lot of tempo. Tarzan on the bot side, gonna look for something on Elk, but there's nothing to find here. It's Sivir under tower. That's free Grubs going over to Waybo Gaming, and once again, it's an objective that they get without any pushback.
And while it wasn't a real focal point of Game 2, side laning is such a plus here for Waybo. Again, as they want to play slow. They want to separate AL, force them to respond to waves. Camille with 3 grubs. Ryze with 3 grubs. And now it's Jeje, potentially looking for his first Paranoia gank. Channeling the recall, but we'll see if Zika commits that Hextech ultimatum. No, the reset will come through, and K-Man, back to the point. 3 grubs, Ryze, Camille versus Rek'Sai, Cassio, that's a very big point of emphasis.
Yeah, I mean, not only do they have the side lane pressure, but they utilize that side lane pressure for free kills whenever they want with all of the tools that they have. This is a comp that is built to be able to play this map. And now with 3 grubs, not only is it easier to play the map, but you get more for playing the map. I think both of those things become true with the grubs, and I don't think that gets talked about nearly as much as it should. It's not really just about making sure that you can have an easier time. It's the opportunity cost goes up so much for a team that already really benefits in that stage. So no objectives on the map for now. The question is Paranoia. That's where the eyes are going to be. All eyes are going to be on Jeje. He's been phenomenal throughout this series. Cassio does have that flash back up, but both the Cass and the Varus are very immobile. One Paranoia will likely cost at least 1 sum wherever it's used.
Speaking on JJ's performances, I think this is no better time than now with the spot he's in to highlight. What that thought actually. Kyle's gonna get caught here. That's the quickness, the charm, knockup, but JJ doesn't spring the trap there. Doesn't throw down the paranoia. Doesn't jump on Kyle. So they're just gonna use that support ultimate for a bit of pressure. The point I want to make here is I want to take a look at, all time, the stats behind Tarzan and JJ, because, on paper, K-Man, you'd kind of think that matchup to matchup, it would be a bit more Tarzan-sided, but now, especially considering these two games that JJ has won, it's 18-14. It is a very narrow scoreline between these two.
I mean, these are two of the most legendary junglers in LPL history, both of them having a ton of accomplishments, one of them being a world champion, but
there's the paranoia, Hextech ultimatum, the lockdown we were looking at from draft, springs the trap for the first time under Waybo's name, and it's Zika getting a critical kill.
Yeah, Zika picking up a critical kill and JJ getting one step closer to making that 14-15 as we get lower on our screen here. That is how you want to use that paranoia early on in the game. That one-item power spike that can really be a big difference maker for the Nocturne. We are starting to get to the part of the game where I think Waybo might just completely control the map with their ability to play any fight that they want. Dragon has spawned. There is no paranoia rise on the top side, so macro advantage to AL, but how are they going to use it? As Elk is at least zoning out the bot lane for now. Oh, Shanks.
Xiaohu. Do they even need their ultimates to spring this trap? They got a Root Prism, a flash to get the fear down. Shanks, he flashes, he turns the punch flying guys, but JJ gets around it. Flandra coming in, trying to get the knockup. Shanks is very low, but that's a clutch find from Flandra to save Shanks for another fight. This is just been trying to cut away from Xiaohu. Flandra's trying to play bodyguard to make sure none of these Qs can land, but the flash and the hook shot from Zika finds that trade kill. Where is Tarzan? Where is the rest of AL trying to back up their solo lanes? They're trading this for a dragon. It's gold to Waybo and a new clear victory point for AL with two dragons stacked up.
Yeah, they get the dragon, and most importantly, Flandra is trying his best to salvage all of this game for anyone's legend. Once again, basically turning a play where Shanks is overextended in the mid lane into something that is at least salvageable for the team as a whole. He wants to win this on Rek'Sai, but even then, he can't do everything. Zika's going to get quite a bit on the top side for this. Flandra's still quite low. Kyle is here, but I think Zika should be fine.
Right. Yep. There's not really enough kill threat. Ooh. A marksman ult off coming across. Elk pops the on the hunt just to make sure that Hope maybe can't find that lockdown. But it was all a bit of a ruse to get Hope in an uncomfortable spot, and that includes his turret. Lights go out, chains of corruption, a fleeting hope that has been dashed as Kyle looks for the play that crashed out into the stun, layered with a split display of talent, and we're getting plays on all sides of the map now. One kill apiece split across the top and bot lanes.
Yeah, great kill for kill trade there for both teams. I think they gain a lot from that. Now it's just a race to see where the first tower is going to go down. Will it be Waybo or AL that can pick that up? That is going to be a really important spike. Obviously, Grubs on the side of Waybo Gaming definitely give them an advantage. But Flandra, by himself on the top side, they don't feel like they can commit to this. JJ trying to get it quite a bit, but he's invaded too far.
And now Shanks has found Xiao, who's trying to cover the Hex Gates. We'll get JJ on out of there safe and sound. And now we have some TPs being wagered, but Flandra, with all that action on the bot side, will pick up that first turn and use his tunnels to get away there from Zika. So we're kind of settling back into AL, playing that map smarter to garner gold. It's just this time not to extend a lead, K-Man. It's to re-garner a lead.
Yeah, I actually think it's really impressive in this game what they're capable of doing, because this is not a part of the game where they should really be able to find any footing at all. This is where Waybo's comp is by far at its strongest in terms of when they want to play these fights. And so for them to be able to find these avenues to get back, specifically Flandra, really impressive stuff as Shanks and Elk just going to have a stare off down on the bottom side. But this Rek'Sai has been massive. Getting that first tower gold is going to continue to let this champion accelerate. And now that we've got some objectives coming up, Herald in 20 seconds, and we could potentially be seeing even more action on the top side of the map.
Starting to settle in on some of these key items coming through. The Profane Hydra, Tarzan near 2 items, those cheap lethality items on Hope, innate value compared to the scaling lean from Elk. Again, this is the point in the game where item-wise, with the gold so narrow, you do have some slight advantages on the AL side as it currently stands.
Definitely. You are in a spot where you very much can try and fight. I'm a little bit worried about this Casio in terms of the damage that can be output, but as long as you're able to neutralize that backline dive, things can definitely still be successful. Tarzan, by the way, doing a great job of just having more pressure on the map than Jeje right now on this Kiana, something he really failed to do at last game on the Nefiri, even with the 4-3 kills.
Kyle is on a ward.
Hacking on Vision.
Yep, Zika gonna interrupt him with the hook shot. They are bringing over the cavalry. The Hextech Ultimatum will come down and trap Kyle, but he just drops a Magnet Storm and kind of invites them as Shakes and Tarzan look for the turret. Zika's out. Tarzan flashing forward to bring the play out. Only hits on to Arha, and he gets out with ease. A good look from Tarzan, but that's a lot of resources just to get one measly support as Xiaohu looks for the trade onto a bot lane tier 1 turret.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. You're getting a little more than the support, luckily, because the Herald is spawning at this exact moment, so that's a free pickup for anyone's Legend. That should help them at least, kind of neutralize some of the gold they lose from this particular tower, but specifically it going on Ryze, I think is really important. We talk about Cassio being a big counter pick to Ryze. Where that becomes relevant is when you're in a position where you can capitalize on Ryze's playmaking ability. Now, if he's just standing there, machine gun Ryze, killing your entire front line, it's going to be a little less relevant, especially when your main tank in this game is going to be a support Rel and a Rek'Sai. So definitely going to be important for them to shut down this mid laner and to make sure these side lanes don't get out of control.
A lot for AL to handle. So we continue to approach more and more critical junctures in this game. Now have the Axiom arc done here for Tarzan as he gets over to that 2-item threshold. We still have Elk, who's farmed supremely well, totally done and dusted with his coal. He has himself the biggest gold lead currently on the map, and he's already done with the Navori Flicker Blades. And we have to start, approaching that conversation, K-Man, of when do we feel like Elk Sivir will be game warping. It's usually that 3 to 4 item mark for a champion of this scaling caliber.
Yeah, we're definitely still a ways off from Elk being able to completely take over in a lot of these fights, but we're getting closer and closer. And if I know anything about Elk, he's going to try and fight even without the power spike, as we see Waybo.
He's ahead of schedule.
I think I'm a trap here.
Ooh. Another death brush here that Kyle will happily walk up to and take about half his HP. Gets Xiaohu's ghost out. We have the TP come across here for Shanks. Zika is totally comfortable, leisurely enjoying his top lane vacation onto the tier 1 turret, but he's going to have to make his way down here. This is Hextech's sole point. AL's clear win con left in the game, and Waybo look a little bit disjointed, undecided what they want to do. Zika will just now finish off the turret, and he's not TPing. Waybo are going to give up sole point and trade immediate gold for it.
I really don't like this trade, Slayer. I understand that you are getting gold onto the Camille, which can be valuable, but you're getting a tier 1 on the top side and a couple of plates onto the tier 2. This is really not a worthwhile gold trade because it forces a fight a little bit later on in the game when AL have caught up a little bit more. I mean, this is a team that was down in gold already at this fight, and while you have a lot of resources to be able to burn, I think with a Camille there to lock down these immobile carries, you can definitely still win it. It'll be interesting to see if they just want to wait for that Elk power spike like you talked about for this Sivir to get online, but it's starting to get a little bit dangerous, the resources going over to anyone's Legend.
It's a dangerous game to play with this bridge. I always love that bridge analogy, K-Man. I'm going to kind of evolve it for this game, like a drawbridge. Those shaky bridges that kind of swing back and forth. It's like not a real stable one. Because you're playing for the scale of a Ryze and a Sivir, but, the more steps you take towards them, the weaker the latches of your Nocturne. Potentially your recon value kind of get leaky on the other side. So it's fine to have Nocturne be kind of that reliable ult bot to turn off the lights, but you are kind of cutting the legs out of who I would say has been one of your best performing players of the series so far in JJ, the longer you lean into that scaling aspect.
I agree. I think that this team really wanted to try and play around this Paranoia Realm Warp combo where you could constantly be making plays. Level 6 play. I mean, that level 6 to level 11, that's when Nocturne Ryze really wants to open up the map, even with something like a Camille trying to make plays with that teleport around the map. There are plenty of tools. Now, Waybo do have a gold lead, most of that being on primary carries, which is the best thing you can possibly say. But we're looking bot side. Shanks is immobile.
Yep. Oh, there we go. Lights out. Nocturne on top of you. Nice flake, Shanks. Guess who's behind you? It's Zika. Another great rat. Hexing ultimatum with Kyle, who's like a fish out of water, completely caught. Tarzan has to throw down a split because talent hits onto 4, and he uses the Herald to allow Kyle to escape with the Realm Warp. Brings 4 forward. After Tarzan goes Zika with the hook shot, but Tarzan gets out. Chains of Corruption can hold Zika in place. Kyle goes after the mid-tier 1 turret with his Herald. As Hope does end up popping Zika. Doesn't flash out in time as Elk's Boomerang Blades will find that trade. Pandemonium came in and somehow ends up with a positive kill trade for Waybo, but positive turret trades for AL.
Somehow we come out of that, Slayer, with gold having not changed at all in terms of the difference between these two teams. Insane fight from both of them. It looks like a fantastic catch from Waybo, but well played by Anyone's Legend to be able to disengage and at least get something from it. This is what you need to be utilizing Nocturne for. Not just Nocturne, but the Rise power spike here as well, who's really starting to come online in terms of his damage. Shanks has no chance to be able to get out of here. Really nice petrifying gaze from him. Unfortunately, you've got the Camille on the back end, and that makes this tough. Kyle a little bit out of position. He should be dead, but the Tarzan save from the Herald is absolutely massive. The flank coming in from Elk, who's a little bit out of position to be able to speed up the rest of the team, but the knock-up coming in from the Herald as well, actually delaying the ability for the rest of the team to get in after the Realm Ward, but does cost Hope his life. Tarzan able to escape, but at the end of the day, an okay trade for both teams as both of them end up getting gold where they want it. But Waybo, look at the gold difference between their carries now.
It's just like brass tacks. 1,000 gold lead on your Rek'Sai at this point compared to 1,000 on the Sivir, 1,000 on the Rise. Like, these gold leads aren't all the same. Like, they're not all graded the same, right? And it's really all just this massively pressurized crutch for AL of this Hextech Soul. The more this game goes on, the more I feel if they don't pick this up, they just get outscaled in this series.
I mean, you're absolutely right, Slayer, but let's think about this. You're going to have a lot of chances to pick this up. That's why it's so scary to give over Soul Point. Is Waybo is sitting at 0 Drakes. If they want to take away Dragon Soul forever on this map, you got to win 4 Dragon fights in a row. And eventually you're going to get to a point where things can get a little bit slippery towards the end of this game. So that's why it's so concerning that you're in this position in terms of the objectives and why you gave it over so freely. Even if you do feel comfortable being able to win the front-to-backs, there's always that lingering thought in the back of your mind that Hex Soul could actually bring this back for Anyone's Legend. And with 40 seconds on the respawn timer for Soul for Anyone's Legend, that's definitely going to be the next thing that everybody's pointing towards.
And what makes that even bigger of a point, right, is the fact that AL can trade 1 Drake for a Baron if they want, right? How do Waybo even answer that? As we do see Flandre and Kyle looking on to Elk there, but he's able to get back out to safety. So huddled around his team here. Arha and JJ holding down the front fort as the poke war is officially commenced here. Shanks, though, looking to really affect the fight off to the side as we have our observers toggle that vision for AL. Zika also moved over, but everybody backs off. It feels like they're waiting for those timers, which is now. Hextech, Soul Drake, and Baron all on the cards at the same time. Will this be the start of an AL comeback down from the desperate 0-2, a spot they've never been in? This fight could really decide that.
Yeah, Shanks has to TP in because he's so out of position. They're going to try and force this fight before Zika can get here.
There's Kyle, gets onto Elk, the sprint to slay down is perfect! There's Tarzan and Kyle linking up, and Shanks does it, the Petrified Gaze to block everybody else off, and the Void Rush from Flandre finds Arha, and AL finally get back to a fight-winning way, absolutely wiping down Waybo. Zika just has to watch as his entire team falls. AL fight win, maybe just secures them this game win, because they get the Hextech Soul as the crown jewel of their victory.
It's a game-losing mistake here from Waybo Gaming. They have such a good setup, but the teleport coming in from Shanks is just not identified quick enough from Zika, who fails to be able to travel back. The moment they can start to play front-to-back in a 5v4, they're able to exert so much pressure, as we see in this. Elk is just too far forward. He is playing too aggro. It's helped him in previous games in this series. Kyle, Tarzan, they are taking full advantage of it in game number 3. That Sivir is off the map. No spell shield even thrown out, and at this point, there's no way to win the fight without the Sivir being available. Your front lane also completely bursted here. The Rise can't do everything, but they're gonna try to pull back here.
Trying to catch them after the Baron take, but Tarzan goes invisible. Kyle's there to protect. It's a great change of corruption from Hope as well. Do we really want to dive this tier 2 turret with Zika? Maybe throw the entire game away? No. AL locking in finally, and they won't even give away a kill after taking the Baron and the Soul.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes from bad to worse here for Waybo. That's Paranoia. A pretty big cooldown that's kind of utilized here for basically nothing. This was a fantastic start for Waybo that unfortunately is just not in a spot where they can continue it. Tarzan is massive, and you know who's been unbelievably good is this Rek'Sai for Flandre on the top side, who has absolutely run a ton of this game. It's been one of his best champions throughout all of this year. He's continuing to have a huge impact as they are pushing in aggressively.
I mean, hey, 3 items done. feel like the best player on the Rift. That's the type of movements you make as Tarzan, who is now put a stranglehold on the gold gap, finally answering into JJ. But the gold being 4K up, the real hurt pockets there for Waybo. What was it, a 2K lead between each of Elk and Xiaohu at one point? It's down to a mere couple hundred shillings.
And it's 2,500 for that jungler, for Tarzan, on this Kiana. This game is looking dire, especially with that Hextech Soul. This is why you can't really afford to give over Soul Point for free. It's a massive mental error. Xiaohu could be in trouble under this tower if he's not careful on this rise, but it's going to be that push coming in, this Baron buff being utilized to full effect by anyone's legend as they continue to just destroy what is remaining of Waybo's base.
There goes another turret. Trying to get rid of all those tier 2 turrets. Waybo have been very cognizant of trying to defend the mid tier 2, but the 4-1 block is a staple for a reason. Flandre going to bring another wave up to that aforementioned turret. Won't necessarily look to try and crack it here. He's trying to look to see if any fight breaks out, knowing the fact that a Paranoia, a Realm Warp, and an Instinct can put Waybo in a better position to fight, but the tier 2 turret nonetheless falls, and the gold accrued continues to stack here for AL as the push continues.
They are just pushing in repeatedly. 30 seconds on this Baron buff. They want this tower before they end up leaving. I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to get it. They're going to try and rotate into the mid lane. But we'll see if they can actually find their way in. If Waybo aren't careful, this could be a game-ending die for KL. They have to be very worried about their backline here.
I mean, the Hextech Soul value, you saw it right there. One Tarzan Q, one piercing arrow from Hope, and slowing and chunking down Arha to half health. Is a valuable point to make here, though, K-Man, that Baron Siege doesn't get a ton of value because that's Sivir and Rise for you. You really, AL have to win a fight here to really break that base open finally. They can't afford to shove even Baron waves continuously at this Sivir from Elk.
You're absolutely right. You know, the Baron waves alone aren't going to be able to win this game, but the 3,000 gold that they generated from the Baron waves is definitely going to help, as Arha has to be real careful here.
Supreme display of talent, he uses the charm to try and dash. And this flash doesn't want to get away. Kael'thas finds a new target to go after, that being JJ. Does hold on to his flash for now. Will flash alongside his support. Tarzan doesn't have that much damage to complete those kills, but hey, with an Axiom Arc, his ultimate comes up 10 times faster than either of those summoners.
Yeah, I mean, it's going from bad to worse. At this point, they're just trying to get any sort of vision control, but with no objectives on the map right now, you might just need to play as safe as possible. You can't really afford to be burning a lot of these summoners. With Dragon coming up in a minute 30, Elder Dragon, that is game. Full stop for anyone's legend if they're able to pick it up. You can't really be overextending. That's going to be no flash onto your support, no flash onto your Nocturne, very importantly. And look at the items for Noct. That's 2 items. You are not at a point where you're going to be able to fight at all. No Guardian Angels specifically completed for Jeje in this game. That's going to make this Elder fight so difficult unless he can get that done before the spawn in just over a minute.
Well, the first swing of this series really felt like Jidge's Baron Steel. Blind, by the way, looking back at the vision toggle. We talked about that extensively. The Hail Mary is going to have to be that Elder Steel, it feels like. Taking a fight would feel completely uncomfortable. These paranoias, like you mentioned, feel like a one-way trip. The question now really becomes, do Waybo find any sort of, critical item that can come through before this Elder comes across? It doesn't look like components-wise Elk is going to finish that IE anytime soon unless he's sitting on a real big lump sum of gold. Xiaohu still doesn't have a lot of damage behind this Rise, so for the fake gold leads into scale comps conversation, we're just not even there yet for Waybo even.
Yeah, I mean, this is tough.
Okay.
Really aggro is going to get some ults, but he's just dead up here, no?
Yeah, he's completely dead. Hey, congrats on, not staring at Medusa's stone vision there on the petrifying gaze, but one-way trip there for Zika, and it could not come out of a worse time. It is 15 seconds till the Elder.
Yeah, I mean, that's a dead top laner for 45 seconds with Elder Dragon spawning. Maybe you're delaying them a little bit, but Shanks has TP. He's just going to be able to get in immediately. This should be free Elder Dragon. It's real. If you thought it was going to need to be a steal before, it's definitely going to need to be a steal now.
Commonly coined JJ as the Steel Prince of the 2026 so far in the LPL. He's had some big moments, and our great observers toggle the vision just to show you now. The only member of AL they see is Kael, and it's a guessing game for JJ as he knows once he walks up to this pit, he'll be spotted. Poke really coming through. Flandre looking to zone. They do get a little bit of vision on Elder. See, it's down to about 8K. JJ, you want to use that ward to jump on somebody to at least look for the steal, but now He has no way to look in. They've got the scrying orb down. It's late. JJ can even get here. El gets caught by Kyle. There's no way into this pit, but Flandre and AL, they're looking to try and turn a fight before the Elder's secured here. They can't really make up their mind. Tarzan at home. They need to finally finish off this Elder. It's no vision. Lights go out. Elder's secured. It's still a flash over the wall from Kyle to get out, but Flandre's here. Level 18. Big tank Rek'Sai. Just going to continue walking forward next to Shanks, pushing all the Waybo away, shooing them away, one at a time. And it's AL with the Elder that can maybe force a fight in the base to end this game 3.
Incredibly clinical play from anyone's Legend, not leaving any room for a flip to happen. They want to make sure that Nocturne can't get into the pit, and they do exactly that. It's an AK gold lead. It's Elder Dragon right now as they continue to push down. And, oh, when you look at that Slayer, Baron has spawned on the map, and I'm pretty sure AL are going to feel pretty good about taking that too.
Now, this is one that you do have to give, Waybo. Because you run at the Elder comp, you're definitely dead. AL, you feel like because they're down 0-2, like that's why they're taking this really slow, critical approach to all these objectives. They don't even want to like give Waybo a shot to flip this game this late.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. I think at this point, you might as well, right? Like, you're not really losing any time by going and taking the Baron, and you can immediately start pushing the top wave. Like, you can send somebody to stop this Camille, who is taking a bit of gold, but if it's a base race you want, it's a base race I'm sure that they will be happy to take, especially since Nocturne is only backing right now. Spot lane turret is not long for this world, neither will this mid lane one. Kyle.
It's a very forward strong crash down, but he's not punished nonetheless, Shanks. Each a root prism. They're trading some health economy for space on these inhibitors, but the inhibitors are going to fall. Both picked up in the top and mid wave, as Zika will return from his escapade to get one tier 2 turret of value. AL circling the entrapment known as Waybo's base that is closing down space, crumbling second by second. Nexus turret first down. Waybo, you gotta make a stand at some point as the lights go out. JJ doesn't even go in though. Elk feels no comfort as Nexus turrets are down. It's JJ that goes after Hope, but there's the Greybeard Elder Barrel's breath coming through to take down one. KL will fall. Shanks gets put into a state. Self does find a second kill here. Arha goes down. Zika all of a sudden eviscerates Hope, but they have the Baron, they have the minions there, and they don't even need to kill off Big Bad Elk. AL avoid the sweep and win game 3.
They win game 3 as my camera is a little bit foggy. Maybe, hey, we're all just a little disoriented from that game, but massive, massive win for AL. Obviously, losing it is awful. Like, it's a complete revamp in terms of the way we view this team, and so picking up a win here, being able to stabilize and getting yourself back into the series is necessary. They do it in a way that I think is really encouraging, which is to say, when they shouldn't. A mid-game macro gap from a team that I think has really struggled to do that this split, and that's really exciting.
Hey, better late than never. That's where we're at, right? I'm glad you made the statement. That felt like an AL game. If you asked an LPL fan to be like, describe to me an AL win, like how they go about it, you can kind of just present that game 3. Just for other AL fans, you know, take that Photoshop tool and we just scrub out those nice little lines that we put next to each team for every game they win in a series, and they'll be cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, you know, you keep the mental. Hey, one of my big questions for this team was like, is this mental destroyed? Like, are you coming out of this game to new coaching staff? A lot of these players, like, was the mental destroyed? Well, if it was, we didn't see it in game number 3, and that's the most important part. We saw this team get back to the way that they like to play. I want to make it clear, I still prefer Waybo's draft in this game. Waybo made a lot of mistakes. I think that there were multiple points that you could say, okay, if they do this, they probably win this game. And this was in Waybo's hands. I think that they had this game and kind of threw it away, but AL still did everything they needed to do to capitalize on those mistakes, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. It might not be up to you to be making the plays, but it's the LPL, man. People are going to screw up. It's all about what you do with it. Exactly.
I know. Waybo, like, we come out of that draft and we're like once we get level 6 on this top side, man, let's roll Paranoias. We're realm warping. We're ulting on to Flandre, like immediate 2v1, 3v1. There was like one play. Like we saw it, I think it was the 3rd kill of the game where they did the level 7 combo of Zika and JJ. Flandre was just dead, right? Like after that, K-Man, I don't think they really ever got that combo off clean. And that, like you said, was for me like the big main mistake made with this comp.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, there's one very clear play where the game goes from you're winning to it's not winnable. And that is, to me, and I know this is a little earlier than, you know, the big fight that, you know, you lose 2,000 gold in. it's giving Soul Point for free. It's having Zika take tier 1 top lane for absolutely nothing, right? Like, I am so pro giving up the first 2 dragons if it means you get grubs and top lane priority. I think that that is a worthwhile trade in a lot of instances if you feel like you can play the side lanes effectively. You cannot give up Soul Point for nothing. That is just not, especially with the comp you have where you should be stronger at that point in the game, because what is the one big risk of that? Well, you get to one fight where your AD carry gets caught and the game is over because they have Hexal. You can no longer make mistakes. It takes away the room for error, and I think Waybo just played a little too close to the sun in this one.
But here was that big fight that kind of swung things, and for all we've talked about this series with AL of, you know, hey, Tarzan and Kael, they've been inconsistent this split. We still like to grade them as world class. That fight was one of those moments where we could be like, see, this is why we still have hope in AL. Why we still expect them to put up a fight no matter what the series score is, no matter how much pressure is on them. Those 2 guys, when they link up perfectly, it's some of the best plays that you see in the LPL, and that was that fight that you feel like after giving up Soul, of course, K-Man, to your good point, was the like, all right, this is an AL game win.
Yeah, I think it's totally valid for Waybo in the early game to say, who cares about the first 2 dragons? Because I agree with that. Like, I think grubs are more valuable than the first 2 dragons. Yeah, I think if you, especially for a comp that has Camille Rise, right? Like, you are winning in that trade. The problem is not the idea. The problem is you took it too far. And it's about pulling it back. And again, AL still had to execute. You still have to go and win the fight. You still have to go and kill Elk in the big exchange. And that trigger pull is what AL has been missing throughout a lot of this series up until this point. It's been Waybo that's actually found their way to walk forward, whereas AL has constantly been walking backward throughout a lot of the games leading up to this. But I think the big difference for me just really comes down to how confident you feel in your decisions. And player of the game actually going to Kael here on the rel. That KDA, you know, not sexy, but definitely still pretty good. Not my personal pick, but certainly one that I think is okay.
Big T Tarzan really should have taken this one home. I mean, that's my pick. Oh, no. Yeah, I see.
I think Mr. Flandra on the top side I think he saved that early game for me. And I think without him, that game becomes a lot harder. I'll tell you that.
Yes, I agree, actually. It was a unanimous Kael one. Man, they must have really liked that Rift Herald play. Everybody loved that. It's like, you see him escape and then knock 2 people out on the way. Guys, he's griefing if Tarzan doesn't save him. So I don't know what we're... I love Kael, buddy. You know what? It's an AL win. Who cares about player of the game right now? All Helper and the rest of AL are worrying about is how to approach this game for draft. And, well, I'm sure you're very curious about what that exact path will look like. K-Man mostly will have the breakdown for a very critical game 4 draft. See if AL can bring another Split 1 playoff game 5. We'll see you guys on the other side for that 4th game. Another game on the horizon here in our lower lower semifinals matchup here. Anyone's a Legend taking on Waybo Gaming, and it's been anything but expectation. If you missed it, this was a 2-0 Waybo Gaming lead. They were cruising really from a critical juncture point in Game 1 all the way through a Game 2 lead and doing it in creative ways. But now we start getting into the really big tests for players, you know, newcomers like Arha all the way to big guys like Xiaohu and Tarzan. It's a fearless game for 30 champions off the board here. Waybo for the first time with selection identity came in. Are you expecting them to just continue that trend of this series and looking for first selection here?
I would agree with it here. I was less in on it in game number 3 for AL, mostly because I thought that there were so many picks up on the board that actually having the turn would have been positive. I think a lot has been taken off of the board now, and even more is going to continue to get banned. I don't imagine things like Vi and Orianna that we're really trying to prioritize are going to be getting through this draft phase, and with things like Varus and Ryze now taken off, I really don't think that there is as much that you can prioritize, but to me, having that first pick, establishing your identity and getting to choose which part of the game you want to be strong in, that's super important, specifically for this bot lane for Waybo.
Yeah, those bot lane combos that are really left up is going to be such a focal point to talk about here, because not only are we starting to get really low on those pairings came in, but also like comfort champions for our ADs. I think Hope, like, definitely one of the Varus merchants, it felt like in a lot of spots, but I still really garner him as like the quirky guy. So I'll say this now, K-Man, AL, unless like the ban phase is much different than we've seen it go so far in the series, Corki Nami turn 1-2 if they don't have first selection feels like a really good start for this team.
I think it's really safe I think it depends to me on what gets through jungle mid. It's so hard for me not to want to say, like, well, just take your jungle mid. Like, don't worry about it. Like, bot lane will figure it out. Like, there are still a lot of picks left up on the board. Wukong is still up on the board, which I think is one of the best engagers in the game still in terms of consistency. And a lot of the things that really beat Wukong are off the board. If you want to give over the Wukong or even something like the Vi, Poppy is available for Tarzan. That's been a huge signature pick for him throughout his career. So there are plenty of things left up. Talia, Ahri, you know, Akali, like Aurora. These are picks that have been consistently banned throughout this series as well. So very curious to see what happens there. I think for AL, it's about Tarzan and Shanks. For Waybo Gaming, it's probably going to be early prioritizing that bot lane 2v2.
I have to see once this draft does get underway. But before we get there, K-Man, we did some digging to make sure. Most importantly, we got to fact check the silly dumb brain play-by-play when I throw things out there that I don't have statistical basis on. But for once, I actually maybe landed with both my feet under me. AL, we fact checked it when it came to playoffs. You know, they never went down 0-2. They played a lot of Game 5s, K-Man, but they never went down 0-2. So this is, for a team that has been tested in every which way we feel like domestically, a new test.
Yeah, I mean, this team was no stranger to Game 5s last year. I believe they played the most Game 5s of any team in the LPL, but none of those started from a 0-2. None of those ended up with them winning neither Game 1 or Game 2. So definitely uncharted territory, but they are familiar with these long series. They are comfortable. The last time these two teams played in a best-of-5 in the playoffs, AL and Waybo went to Game 5, and Waybo won that Game 5 in Round 1 of the Grand Finals last year. So very much intrigued to see if that is going to be something that ends up repeating. We remember AL having at least a decent time in their lower bracket run to make their way into Worlds last year. But Waybo, they don't want to get to Game 5. They don't want to worry about that. They want to close this out in 4, because if you lose 2 games in a row to anyone's legend going into a 5th and final game, I mean, momentum is completely gone at that point.
And that's a perfect flip side kind of angle to talk about. I understand that Waybo, matchup-wise, are the not favored team, right? They are the weaker team. But if we just kind of strip away everything about this matchup and really just hone in on the players, how many huge closeout games in spots like this has Xiaohu been in, has JJ been in, has Elk been in, right? More than almost every AL player on the other side except like maybe Tarzan. So gotta ride on the confidence of your veterans if you're Waybo as we get in to this Game 4 draft here, and it is just as we projected. Waybo want first selection, and I am seeing Aurora get through immediately.
Aurora is let through. Talia is let through as well, which are both big options. Great call out, Slayer. It's going to be that first pick Aurora for Xiaohu. He's had some unbelievable pop-off moments on this champion. He's had some unbelievable ints as well. There have been like the best and the worst of Xiaohu come through this Aurora champion, and I'm really excited to see what this does for the team in Game 4. Very intrigued that they take away the Annie, something that's been really rising in popularity throughout multiple regions, as we've seen both here in the LPL, but specifically in the LCK as well. So interested to see that taken off now that there are so many other mid laners gone in this Fearless. But with the Thresh locked in, I expect to see the Aphelios potentially coming through later on in this phase. But it's going to be some beefy boys kicking off the draft here for anyone's legend with the Mundo lock as well.
Mundo for Tarzan. So are we... This is signaling to me... Wow, so we set up for Elk and Arha to play the Corki Nami. Okay. This is the first game of this series where I'm starting to think that AL want to play the scale game. They have not done that through 3 games.
Yeah, they had a little bit of it in game number 1, but they just lost too hard in the late game, even with the scaling advantage. They couldn't really corral that Ezreal, who ended up being masterful for the team. You know,
dang it. I was...
Oh, Slayer is getting a little jump scared here, unfortunately. The pendulum swings too far in the other direction. Will be the Aphelios.
Come on now.
Yeah, I know. That would have been real nice and real fun. And, of course, Jinx opens up some interesting gameplay lines against Corki in particular. But the Aphelios is going to be the most consistent carry here for Hope. Hope's someone we put a lot of pressure on in this series. We called him out before the series even started. And yet, somehow, some way, he's not really lived up to the billing just yet. There were multiple games where he's really struggled to be able to get his feet under him. You're looking at Dr. Mundo for Tarzan. You're looking at a Thresh to completely set up this hyper carry. This game is all about Hope. He's going to have to step up big if they want to keep their split alive.
And it's the pendulum swinging. It's a burst-heavy comp from Waybo that at a certain point will get outranged by this Aphelios, depending on the gun combinations, and out-healed by this Mundo. It is only a matter of time. So for a series that's been defined by the fact that Waybo have been able to kind of wait for the right points of their comp to come online through those first 2 games, they have switched to the other side of the table. But how do we put together the rest of this comp here for both of our sides? Waybo definitely need, like, very clear engage. They need very clear engage for this Aurora. They're not going to get from the Nami. So already came in. I love that Wukong ban coming out from Helper.
That's the thing, is we're really starting to get pinched on a lot of these really nice engaged junglers. They're basically entirely off the board. Malphite would probably be the next up if you wanted to go in that direction. Yeah, it's probably going to be something like the Malphite if you wanted the answer. Alternatively, if you wanted to play really aggressive, you could pull out something like the Aatrox in the jungle and go Gnar on the top side. If you really wanted to try and make something like that work, it would rely a lot on Zika to potentially be a lot more active on the map. Definitely a possibility. We'll have to wait to see how Waybo ends up rounding it out. Twisted Fate gonna be the final ban here from Waybo. They don't want any side lane action going on to complement this Aphelios. They want to force this comp to have 1 win condition. Totally understand that, but there are so many mid laners left up that have good answers to the Aurora. Talia would be consistent, not something that really pairs well with the identity of this draft, but that champion is just so strong. I could definitely see something like a Syndra come out here if you wanted to see that. I think that would make a lot of sense, but Talia is just too good to pass up at this point.
I like the Syndra, like, folding into this comp, right? Because, like, Syndra scales, plays into the range, sits behind the Mundo. But if we talk about, like, you know, like the bridge, you know, building like a bridge, Talia is that very necessary arc to kind of hold up the early game to late game side for AL here, so you can never hate it. We've been seeing a lot of very fun mid laners start to come out in this playoffs in particular, and it seems like everybody's riding the hot wave. What? Okay.
Can I get some
Where's
some
Bloxer,
howls
bro?
in chat? Yeah, I know. Where's
Bloxer?
Bloxer's not here for the Warwick lock-in. I cannot believe
top?
it, Slayer. Yeah, I would guess it's got to be top lane. I can't imagine that going anywhere else. It could go jungle as an answer to Mundo. Don't like that. So
hate that.
I would assume this is going top lane here. Before we get an answer, it's Warwick jungle, it's Aurora in the top lane, and it's LeBlanc that's now locked in for Xiaohu in the mid lane. This has been a huge curveball at the end of this draft, and when you really reframe this, now you're looking at the most risky draft you could have in a game 4. All of these champions need to snowball.
I'm scared. Okay, man, I was on that cast, man. I watched that game 2 Waybo BLG draft, and I felt the same thing. I felt the exact same thing. I'm terrified.
Yeah.
So, we get flogged.
Yeah.
We get flogged for Vladimir. Hey, nice burst comp, bro. I'm just going to go in the Sanguine pool, and if it's late game, you're all getting deleted. Yo. AL, I'm saying it, man. You cannot choke this game. You cannot. You cannot.
I think that there is a way for them to lose this, and it almost entirely just has to do with how Waybo play the early game. This is snowball or bust. We talk about games where teams have an early game and maybe they can bridge it into late. No shot. This is, we either have a gold lead or we are cooked. Like, we have no way to play the game. Keep your eyes on this top side of the map. I never thought I would look away from Corki Nami in terms of pressure, but Aurora, Warwick, and LeBlanc are the most important pieces. Yeah. If they get any gold in this game, as much as Vladimir Dr. Mundo is going to suck, they can really, really take it to them early.
All right, AL, let's exercise some patience here. If we can give a decent amount away in this early game, because I don't care if you're staring down Baron, Soul, if it's 30 minutes and you're playing the AL comp, you cannot lose this game. What a spin here after a series for Waybo that was marred by questionable draft decisions and unique champion picks. With the series on the line, that would provide the biggest statement this playoffs has had so far, besides the JDG upset of this very Anyone's Legend, we land at, I would say, the wackiest draft of the playoffs so far in an elimination game. K-Man, let's go back to the Rift. All right, fans are riled up, as everyone should be. as you can take in this draft from Waybo in all of its entirety. No, folks, this is not Game 5. Fearless. That's my only statement. Double electrocute solo lanes. Playing Aurora into Flandra. Yeah, I mean, can we just pay, like, bottom lane, I don't care. We've seen that matchup before. Every other part of the map, I want to watch.
Slayer, split on the line. We can take down the #1 seed in the playoffs. Give me JJ Warwick. That's who I want on my front line.
Why did you say that exactly like the death beam pointed at the earth? Give me Andre Iguodala. That is not, okay, that is not the same thing, okay? Like, I need to make that clear. These are not the same things. I am not trusting JJ Warwick with the death beam pointed at earth and 1 game online.
Well, it sounds like there's only one believer on the cast here, but that is more than enough. For now, we're going to get our setups here. Level 2 hit by the Waybo Gaming bot lane. Anything less than a lot of pressure coming in from this Corki Nami would be disappointing as we get our standard heal trade. Hook is going to go wide from Kyle, and that is all the pressure that these two lanes can output early on. Keep an eye on this jungle pathing. Warwick is going to be really, really important towards this early game. So we see the graphic at the bottom of the screen as well. I cannot stress enough, Waybo's only chance of being able to win this is being able to snowball this game out of control. It's going to be up to Jeje and these solo lanes to really keep that pressure up and make sure Tarzan's on the back foot.
Whew, yep. And, you know, this is another elimination game and a spot for AL, obviously, to try and force a do-or-die Game 5. So, as we kind of settle into this early game that AL are going to want to play as slow as possible, it's a nice time to talk about what the stakes mean for sort of lowest finishes compared to last year for our two teams. Because I think this really emphasizes, like, how valuable of a spot both of our teams are in compared to, like, what their finishes looked like last year at their lowest points.
Exactly. I mean, both of these teams are kind of fighting to make sure that the unprecedented doesn't happen for both of them. Waybo Gaming, a team that, you know, was not able to really overcome their own demons in 2025. Really, for the first time, they weren't able to make that miracle run towards the end of the year, whereas AL, the most consistent team in the LPL for all of 2025. For these two teams to be in this position, you know, to be fighting it out to make top 3, something AL never missed and something that, of course, Waybo never achieved. It's massive for both of them to see if they can either, you know, stay the course in AL's case or you know, right the ship and kind of, you know, turn time back, if you will, for Waybo.
To see as we settle more and more in to this early phase. And, ooh, a good death sentence there from Kyle. Oh, I thought it might pull. If that pulled Arha under turret, that was a graviton and maybe a kill, but doesn't end up manifesting in that aspect. For all we've highlighted, like early pathing, getting a snowball early, and we have the Warwick jungle, are these two junglers for the first time, Tarzan and JJ, is this the most farm till 6 handshake ever?
Yeah, you know, this might be the most buddy lane kind of scenario we've had in the jungle in quite a while, in a meta of Xin Zhaos and Vi's and all these early aggressors. Definitely not a lot of jungle pressure here as Kyle continuing to at least look to try and land one of these hooks onto the bot lane. It can be really scary to play into this Aphelios early. You might not think that this champion does a ton in the early laning phase, but there are definitely opportunities for him to continue to pressure out this lane if Kyle can land a lot of those hooks, as we see Zika really kind of putting in some work on the top side. That is one thing I will give this Waybo draft. When you look at these isolated matchups individually, yes, Flandra will eventually become a problem. Tarzan will eventually become a problem, but early in these lanes, Waybo should have a ton of priority to be able to play for whatever they want on the map.
And they need to capitalize, right? They need to be coming out here and getting 3 grubs or getting on top of these early dragons and stacking them constantly. And that's a lot of the onus that goes on to JJ, but already I'm seeing the Grizzly vet understand that assignment. Oh, I thought actually with Arha he was going to go after that dragon, but he doesn't. He doesn't for now. As we see the, oh, that's the, man. You know you really love playing Ultimate Chicken when we're just throwing down Hemo Plague just to heal off the wave. That's what Flandra's getting up to.
Well, you have to make sure the cooldown's back up by the time you might actually need it a little bit later on in the game, I guess.
Right.
That's the strategy here on Vladimir in the top lane for now. It's going to be trading going back and forth. I agree. I think this is the right time to pressure it out for Waybo. But AL are looking to de-incentivize this Warwick anywhere near the bot side.
Tarzan and JJ going to meet in this tri-brush. That spell shield for Tarzan, always buffing up his confidence here. It's going to be a bubble or a fear as Elk's going to eat it. Elk into the flay, has to use the cleanse, and Valkyrie back out. Key summoner to grab as Kyle continues to try and hunt for these hooks. Graviton is going to land onto Elk. They get the root here. Kyle's got another death sentence. Elk has to flash this time as Waybo are really hard-pressed to hold down this dry brush, but it came at a cost.
Yeah, Jeje leaves the fight to take Crab to try to hit level 6, but the bot lane still getting pressured out. He will end up hitting that level 6, but by now it's too late to utilize this in a fight. We see this pretty commonly. Tarzan is staying in the area. This Warwick can take this a lot more aggressively now if he really wants to.
Level 6.
Yeah, he's starting up Dragon. This is completely free here if he wants it. Tarzan has no way to be able to get that level 6.
Hey, you know what? Feels like just a helpful jungler. He was kind of hovering because he maybe wanted his bottom lane to get a wave press in there so they could get a comfortable reset. The wave will get back under turret. Hope's even going to get some plate gold or get some extra gold off of Elk, it looks like. And Jijin does not take this quickly on this Warwick with a longsword and a ruby crystal. Xiaohu's going to have the first roam over. AL, they really want to make this fight happen. There's the Weaver's Wall. Jijin goes down, flashes for the double fear, infinite direct with the flay, kicks him out of the Warwick ultimate, and Tarzan jumps on him and capitalizes. Down goes Jijin, and somehow, some way, the Super Snowball team has already been grinded to a halt. First Dragon and first blood to anyone's legend.
That is real bad for Waybo Gaming. They cannot afford to be losing skirmishes at this point in the game, specifically giving a 400 gold lead over to this Dr. Mundo, who will become inevitable in this game with the way that things are set up for Waybo. That is a disaster. That felt like something that really could have been avoided. Elk is just too low with Hope at level 6 and Elk half health under tower. There was no way that that fight was going to be easy. Now Elk's in danger by himself.
Oh, good Valkyrie. Gets away from the Moonlight Vigil, but hey, at least Hope is making him lose some CS and poking him down even lower. I really hope we get a replay of that last fight because for how critically bad that Nico Game 2 was for Kyle, he flays that Warwick out of that fear and the ultimate, and that makes the whole play happen is, oh, Shanks. Seismic shove, and there's Kyle again. Death sentence on his Xiaohu. Flay, the box comes down. Tarzan's going to flash after Xiaohu as he does. Distort over one wall, distorts over a second, but Tarzan layering these cleavers down like he's got aimbot. Hits on his Xiaohu again and runs him down. Tarzan 2-0, and just like that game 3 came in, it's Kyle and Tarzan taking over as a duo.
What a play from the two leaders of anyone's legend, Tarzan and Kyle, finding their way mid lane. Tarzan completed the Heartsteel at 8 minutes into this game. This is looking scary for Waybo Gaming. We talked about how it's so difficult for them to break through in the late game because of this Dr. Mundo, but if Kyle's gonna play like this, Zika...
I don't think this gets
it.
I think the Ignite is real short. Oh, the Scorch almost. But again, the fact that these lanes are AL favored is just what really is speaking volumes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a disaster. I cannot stress enough how important it was for Waybo Gaming to win these laning phases to generate gold leads. You're looking at most champions in this game needing to snowball. Warwick needs gold in order to be relevant. LeBlanc really needs gold in order to be relevant, and none of them are getting it right now. All of them are down in gold, Dragon up in under 3 minutes, but with Grubs on the map and Tarzan already there, they got the first Dragon. They're gonna get Grubs as well. Everything on the map is going in favor of anyone's legend.
What was the statement came in from you out of that draft? It's snowball or die. There is no late game. There is only forward or grinding to a halt here for Waybo. And they're already kind of stammering to make this very wacky draft work. It will be JJ off the reset that will get these 2 grubs, so there will be that pushing advantage. But we're already starting to get a bit crafty with these lane swaps. You can see how close a lot of these quests are. But Waybo, I'm looking to get maybe pressure on this top side, leaning towards these grubs. They are sacking their quests actively. AL are going to get to all of these marks in top and bottom lane much quicker. As Kyle hunts again, gets the flay into the Graviton. Not even go for the root. They're going to take the flash and the ult off the Aurora.
They'll be happy to get the flash. I mean, Zika is now super vulnerable under this tower. They want to potentially look for a dive. It might even be now with this wave crashing, but should just be some plates going over. And Hope is getting very strong on an Aphelios that really can't afford to get as much gold as he is getting right now. Because when you look at the other side of the rift, who's your frontliner? Warwick? it's definitely going to be a bit nerve-wracking to stare down an Aphelios towards the end of this game. And again, things just go from bad to worse for Waybo in this one. Xiaohu going to at least try to take some nice trades, but ironically enough, so much of this game is going to be on the solo laners if they can get in positions where they can burst down that backline. Because if not, there's just no way for them to play front to back.
So now we've got Elk and Arha back bot. We've got Zika back up top after all of that. So I guess came in, it was just to make sure they secured 2 of the grubs. They played towards JJ's strong side, but there is intrinsic value in the fact that Hope, I believe after maybe 1 to 2 waves, will have his quest done. Flandra's going to have it likely on this wave. And Zika, Elk, Arha are all going to be behind that 8-ball. And why I feel like that's relevant, K-Man, the next Dragon is going to be up before I feel like any of those quests are completed on the Waybo side.
For sure. Yeah, no, like they are so behind the 8-ball in terms of being able to get to any power spike at this point, because when you look at the items that are being built, while Shanks is technically behind in terms of the items, this combat power for LeBlanc is not going to be nearly enough to be able to transform this exchange, and Tarzan is like significantly up on Jeje in terms of the way that you can fight front to back. You're right, this Dragon spawning in 10 seconds while Waybo have the inside track, it's going to be really tough for them to be able to keep it the moment these tanks start to walk through the area.
And Flandra just got access to his teleport despite taking the Ignite, so he can match Zika if a TP comes down here for this Dragon. They've also got Hope that goes up to get that extra gold. Gosh. And Tarzan just trying to walk down Elk. He has to dodge cleavers, hooks, everything. It's like he's playing Mundo Dodgeball in his own lane as he goes down to about half HP, but gets some decent trades back into Hope. Does have access to that lifesteal thanks to the red gun. So we'll try to heal off the wave here, but JJ's now been pushed out of the river. A nice dark passage will bring Hope on over towards Tarzan as the mid laners want to get in on the fray. Xiaohu not going to land that chain though. Means that Shanks should be safe and sound. And we're just still setting up this, miniature warfare in the bottom lane as the lines continue to shift around these minion waves. Waiting for somebody to break. It's the TP from Zika. Infinite Duress is going to land there on top of Kyle. They're just going to burn him down, try to take that kill. He puts down the box, he puts down the heal, but JJ will help Elk finally claim that kill. Tarzan with maximum dosage, trying to run out, but the burst is too heavy. He falls next, and now it's 5 versus Hope. What are the odds? Not in AL's favor. He gets popped like a balloon to the tune of a double kill for Zika.
It's the perfect play for Waybo Gaming. They find their way back into this one by really properly setting up a capitalization on the bottom side. It's the teleport flank that ends up really making the difference here from Zika. It gets them the Dragon, which stops the stacking from anyone's legend, but more importantly, it gets one of their solo laners into this game. But AL aren't done. They want to contest this.
Shanks, he was late to that play, and now he's not even getting the side switch of it. It's a smart flash with Xiaohu to secure the chains, but the dark passage for Kyle gets him out. Instead, they've left JJ in the pit. He does secure the Dragon, but Flandra TPing behind is going to likely find this kill with that Hema Plague. He's going to have to flash dash over the wall to find that one. So the Dragon wasn't as easy and breezy as Waybo thought. It cost them another kill onto another scaling threat for anyone's legend.
And that's the trade-off, right? Is like even when things go perfect for Waybo Gaming with Zika sitting at level 11 in this game, you still have to give up something. Even if you get the Dragon, your jungler has to die, or you have to be able to, find your way to navigate a sticky situation in general. It's just so hard for this comp to find inroads consistently, but being able to take down the Mundo, really important to do now because it's going to get harder and harder to do later. Again, the gold going onto Aurora is massive. One of the few champions that I do think has the ability to burst down some of these tanks in the later part of the game if she can find her way to the backline. Aphelios does have to be a bit careful. Collector now finished, but Xiaohu's actually
wants to fight Xiaohu, but a nice chain and nice to store back means he gets enough position away. JJ comes through. The fear does not land. Sanguine Pool blocks it, but it won't block the claws of JJ, who howls to the moon and finds his first kill of the game on his Warwick.
Yeah, it's a really nice pickup. Not something that changes the outlook of the game too much. Again, gold on Warwick is a little scary, and Zika might be the target on the other side from Tarzan.
Walking him down. Cleaver number 1. Nice slow. That tickles. Oh, this is the second cleaver. He's like, all right, nope. Can't keep going unless I have a 100% hit rate on those.
Yeah, you know what? Not a bad play from Waybo. They actually go up in gold from that play. All things considered, it could have been worse. You do have small gold leads on your primary carries, but Tarzan now going to be the target.
Uses the blast going to be on top of Elk, and he goes after Arha because Kyle hits another sweet death sentence. Nice weaver's wall from Shanks. Elk, where can you go? He cleanses, he Valkyrie's short, he has to flash. Tarzan can't follow over that wall, but they've set up shop in this enemy jungle. Good smite from Jeje, steals away a red buff as a consolation prize. But they can't chase the rest of AL out. They'll take the kill onto Arha.
Waybo feeling themselves way too much in that exchange. Elk and Arha just walking through the jungle, knowing that Tarzan is topside and getting punished. Incredibly heavy for it. Elk with no sums up, and Arha ends up giving yet another kill over to the side of anyone's legend. Those are the kinds of plays that you can't be making, the mistakes that you can't be making. Rift Herald now acquired by AL in that same vein. That's even more gold standing on the map for them. Basically every positive play they made over the past 2 minutes was erased there, and AL have once again regained control.
And again, back to where we were thinking from the draft, right? With this kind of all-out press comp from Jeje and Waybo with the Warwick, the double strong electrocute lanes. Okay, man, we were probably thinking AL would have to sacrifice like a Herald, maybe multiple Dragons. Maybe they get one of the four, right? Of Herald, Grubs, first two Drakes. The fact that it's still even gold, but they're here, basically not at even in neutrals and turrets, that's the real problem here for Waybo.
Yeah, as Flandra lucky to be in a side lane as Vladimir and not as another champion where LeBlanc can do quite a bit, but you're absolutely right. AL continuing to stack these objectives is only good for them. Look at the item difference in the jungle right now. I cannot stress that enough. Tarzan in a great spot sitting at 2 full completed items. And Jeje still hoping and praying to get back online as the Warwick down 200 gold in this particular game. The impact that these two can have is becoming more and more drastic with this Mundo becoming, again, pseudo-inevitable. You have the heal cut on the other side, but it's only going to do so much throughout a lot of this endgame. It's really going to be about stemming the bleeding and hoping you can find a lot of those picks to play these side lanes through.
Gotta keep leaning on those side lanes and the threat of the burst from these double mage-oriented picks here. Trying to unlock Jeje as well to try and use that Warwick chase down the infinite duress to find that lockdown. It's going to take a lot of patience and resolve from AL to just kind of sit back, eat these waves, because every extra wave they get, all these extra levels, the items on this Vladimir, on this Aphelios, the camps on this Mundo, again, it just only further sways this game. And the metrics that you don't see on screen over towards anyone's legend. What can really try and start breaking that mold? This Dragon in 30 seconds that you can already see Waybo have a presence around on the bot side.
This can very easily be the most important fight of the entire game. If Waybo do not win here and give more gold over to AL, that could be disaster for them. Jeje has to be really careful.
Spirit Massage completed here for Tarzan. Love that pickup at this point when all the big, the big gold, the big items are on those two magic dealers. He can really soak up a lot, place into the healing factor. That is a critical item completion for AL if they want to fight for this dragon, which they seem like they do with the TP in from Shanks.
Yeah, this is going to be the biggest fight. Elk at level 11 is going to be big, but he cannot get caught out. He's so far forward.
Playing on the edge of danger. The Herald going to be summoned here. Weaver's Wall from Shakes. Oh my god, guys. We just blew our own Rift Herald play there from Shakes. He blocks out Tarzan. Now they have to awkwardly walk down river as the dragon gets below 2k. Tarzan, do you have a steal in your hands? No, Jeje secures it. Infernal Drake picked up. Big rocket from Elk. Now AL have to play on the back foot here. Do they really want to keep pushing for kills when they have an inside track towards the mid lane?
Yeah, this is so good for AL. They're taking mid tower. Waybo have to make a play.
Oh, there goes Zika going after Kyle. He's the target. He drops the flame, drops the box. He will fall as the double stun lands onto Flandra and Tarzan, and that singles out Shanks. Trying to flash away from Jeje, but you can't outrun the Warwick, and now Tarzan has to be on the back foot. Pops maximum dosage, but it's Arha with the bubble to lock him down. Moonlight Vigil, not enough trade back damage. Waybo punishing some critical AL mistakes. They are not out of this game.
And Jeje's got that dog in him as he takes over this fight on Warwick. He completely destroys the backline with Xiaohu, with Zika. These triple assassins are absolutely dominating these exchanges. And while AL does a really good job of having the inside track to be able to play the fight from a macro perspective, they don't understand that it's the Aphelios who's missing from the fight. The moment the smite goes down, you feel like this is pretty good. The more time that AL buy, the more that this Aphelios can get in the mid lane. If he gets this tower for free with the Rift Herald, That is a huge plus, even if you trade it for Dragon with the scaling. But Waybo decide to make the call to go in. It's Zika, it's Jeje, who eats the CC, but that's his job on this team. He ends up taking down Kyle. The ult lands perfectly onto priority targets like Shanks throughout this fight. And once these big carries are dead, and especially with the shutdown gold going to the Warwick, really easy for Zika, Xiaohu, the damage dealers of this team to clean up. Waybo are not out of the woods just yet, but a Dragon stacking Infernal Drake for them to be able to get, as well as more gold going into the pocket of this Warwick, could be the difference.
Now he gets the Spirit Visage done into the AP solo lanes of AL. You get the Shadow Flame done for Xiaohu to try and get back onto Hope, onto Shanks, and one-shot him. It's soon to be 2 items on Zika. Despite the fact that the early game didn't go as planned, we are reaching that point that Waybo wanted to, maybe a bit later, where their burst threat is going to be critical.
It's so critical. It's so important as we see Hope, the target.
Burns the barrier just as they use it between worlds. But here comes Shanks. Weaver's Wall down again. Seismic Shove does not land. Elk sidesteps it perfectly. And both mid laners, well, I'm used to Aurora being a mid laner. 2 solo laners trade their critical ultimates.
Yeah, the solo laners trade ultimates, but it's Xiaohu who benefits, who ends up getting this top lane tier 1. That's a lot of gold in the pocket of this LeBlanc. We talk about the burst coming in from Waybo's side. A lot of that is going to need to be from this 1k gold lead LeBlanc in the mid lane. Zika is very strong in this game, but you need multiple sources of that damage to allow Elk and Arha to be able to play the back end of this fight.
Elk. Elk.
Schmovin'.
He's daring him. I dare you throw it, Kyle. Can't touch me. This is reminding me of that Yunara game. He's got Pocket Kid Nami this game. He's like, if I got Arha with me, I ain't afraid of nobody. Maybe you should be afraid of this Mundo, though. This Mundo should be scary. That Death Sense should be scary. He has to cleanse it, force out the tidal wave again from Arha. But they jump with even duress onto Mundo. You can't pop your dosage if you're getting clawed down by JJ, Tarzan.
He doesn't even get to press R. That is the best part of this comp, is you do have a ton of lockdown if you can secure a target. Best case scenario is Elk Valks his way out, and it's yet more gold going over to the side of Waybo as Zika plays the side lane well.
All of a sudden, it's up to 3K by this point, and that snowball is reformed in mass. And AL are trying to bring the heat up in this map to somehow quell that problem. But even on top of these nice plays from Waybo near the fights, every time we pan off of these plays, K-Man, they're just making the right pushes on these sides. On top of that,
they are playing better right now. Now they need to keep playing better because it does not get easier for them. Execution will matter throughout the entire game, but this is what we want to see. So much is on the line for Waybo. We called it out earlier. They did not do better than 4th place last year. This is a matchup to kind of prove that they belong in the upper echelon, whereas Anyone's Legend, a team that never did worse than 3rd. They are looking to avoid disaster in their first split here of 2026. Waybo have the gold lead, but this game is far from over. Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. That is massive. Soul point on Infernal Soul for Waybo with this comp could be game-defining.
And every time AL got 3rd, it took a Jackie Love-led top esports to really shake them down. It has never been a team where they are heavy underdogs into their matchup. AL have taken care of business against anybody that isn't top esports and BLG in the domestic realm. In those big playoff matchups, those elimination matchups, those, you know, international securing matchups. So this would be, like you said earlier, K-Man, a place where we'd have to really reevaluate AL. And this fight is pertinent towards that conversation. It's Infernal Drake on the map, and it's AL holding control of the bot river for now.
Zika is sitting in base on this Aurora with TP, waiting to look for this flank.
All right, AL have got to see that streaking scar across their face, but they're staying strong as 5.
Oh, no.
Seismic Shove, JJ gets the Death Sentence down. He has to flash away from Kyle, use the Blast Cone to get out, but Aurora can heal up. Zika, meanwhile, has been spotted on the flank as the ward game is once again waged, with JJ fully healing up.
Andra is going to get chunked out here. The Dragon is started. This could be yet another flip as we saw with Dragon 2.
Shanks puts down the Weaver's Wall. Elk and JJ end up on the other side. Xiaohu goes for a little bit of poke. That's a bit ill-advised. He's to distort right back. Dragging down to about half HP as JJ's gonna wrestle control. Zika's going in with the Between Worlds. Immediate Hebo playing on top of Flandra wants to go right after him. Kyle doesn't hit the death sentence, he eats a bubble. JJ is waiting to go with that infinite duress, but he doesn't see an angle. Tarzan walks back forward. AL are so clumped up. Xiaohu, can you get a big burst damage on top of this backline? No, it's just JJ winning over 50-50, and he gets the big infinite duress on the Flandra. But again, Kyle pulls Warwick out of it, and now Tarzan turns his attention towards Elk. Has the maximum dosage pop, trying to heal up Cusley. Sick over the wall, bursts out one. Xiaohu goes in for a trade. Wait, Elk gets onto Kyle. Xiaohu gets out. Hope cannot step up. Tarzan can't get any of these carries. It has to be the range of Shanks and Hope to claim some of these low kills, but nobody will give them a shot at it. Elk nearly gets taken down by a Shanks rock, but somehow Waybo walk out winning with kills and on soul point.
What an unbelievable fight from both of these teams. Anyone's Legend tried their absolute best to punish this greed, but Jeje, for the, third, fourth time in this series, ends up with the smite advantage. This starts with a nice flank from Zika, causing Hope to flash, but Hope's in a great position for this fight. It should be really easy to play the front to back, but Kyle is chunked out so much from Elk at the start here. He has to balk away from the shove. Jeje, Tarzan, they're in the pit. It's all gonna come down to who presses the smite key correctly. It's just a little early from the Dr. Mundo. Jeje once again being able to land that key summoner. Kyle doing a great job to interrupt the damage coming through and to really save this fight. But watch Arha for the entire rest of this fight. How many Mundo Qs does this guy walk in front of to make sure that his AD carry lives? You know, Xiaohu is doing a ton of damage and he keeps Elk alive, but at this point, he's playing bodyguard. Elk steps up and Arha saying, no thank you, I will eat those, I will protect you, you will not die. And Waybo Gaming once again come out on top on soul point here.
That's the face of the coaching staff going, no way that just worked out. They were sweating bullets. Yeah, I'm glad he pointed out Arha. Again, it's a player that for the most part has been praised for his, come up Split 2. He had some flashing moments for Waybo. He looked better in Split 1, but has been widely seen as like a one-dimensional, leaning to the engaged support kind of meta. The way he's performed on Lulu and even Nami, no matter the output, unless he really throws some fights in this game 4, we got to start reevaluating conversations around Arha's champion pool.
Yeah, I mean, he's been unbelievable on these enchanters so far in this series, basically playing them like engagers with the way that he's able to operate some of these team fights. But I hate to say it, I hate to be the Debbie Downer. You got to keep doing it for Waybo. You're getting to a point now where Tarzan is getting to that third item. That is going to be even scarier. The later this game goes, the less this gold lead is going to matter for them. Even with Infernal Soul, it still is quite a bit trickier than it normally would be because of the snowball comp. You gotta keep your foot on the gas, the pedal to the metal in this one, but they've shown they have the ability to win these fights. Do they want to look at this Baron, or do they just want to wait 2 minutes for potential Soul? That will be the question.
Or maybe wait for Tarzan to walk into 3 of them, but Mundo is not the person you ever want to see close to your lines. Nonetheless, as much Elk going forward here with the Valkyrie onto Hope, just as I was about to talk about it. Hope, an all-pro AD carry in his own right. You said in that last fight, it felt like everything should be comfortable for Hope to step up. This game state, the longer we go on, it should be a spot for an Aphelios with 3 items to really take over. We are running out of excuses for Hope, and in a spot like this, with the season on the line, we need that big Aphelios team fight we've seen so many late games in the LPL marred by.
You have to be able to play through this Aphelios. It's not going to be Flandra. It's not going to be Shanks. It has to be Hope who ends up winning this game for AL. So vision control is coming through. Don't want to let that Baron go for free. This might be one of the few times AL is actually able to clear this out efficiently, and they don't just want the vision. They want the Baron. They're starting this up.
Oh, look at Kyle, too. He kind of juked them around. He walked around the ward, make him think this Baron isn't going down, but they spotted it now. Shake's going to take about a half HP chunk as Kyle has a shot at Arha. Immediate flash, but look at the burst from out. They're going to go right after Kyle. The tidal wave going to knock Hope into the infinite duress. Arha, the enchanter support, comes up huge again, and it might just set this upset on fire. Down goes Tarzan. Down goes Flandra. It's only Shanks left up to tell the tale. Waybo have a shot at Baron to try and close out this series.
Waybo Gaming, despite all odds, are able to find their way back into this game. They win the most pivotal fight of the entire series, and they're going to take Baron off of it. They are outplaying anyone's legend. There is no doubt about it right now. As we watch the way this starts, it's a very bold call from AL to even begin this Baron in the first place. All of this damage going down onto the Nami, but he survives all of it. Elk, Jeje, they are the cavalry that are able to come in and salvage this play. Hope, once again, out of position, greeting for kills. This Aphelios drops too early. He's not able to come up clutch in the fight. And Waybo end up capitalizing. They are the better team here today. They're up 6,000 gold, and Infernal Soul is on the map for them to take.
They've got all the power to them now with the purple banner by their side. And we're back to the desperation that's been plaguing AL all series long, just errantly walking in, trying to stop the bleeding. But Tarzan at half HP has to be the hero. The Split 1 MVP, one of the greats the jungle has to offer in our modern era, needs a clutch Barrett Dragon Smite, or this series might just be over. And they're not even going to let Tarzan in. Infinite Duress from JJ gets him out. Infernal Soul to Waybo Gaming.
They are playing better. It's perfectly executed from Waybo. They understand that the Mundo has to go in early in order to have any chance to close the gap, and they utilize a lot of that safety coming in from the rest of the team incredibly well. Warwick ends up being able to get himself out of danger with his kit. Even Zika in this side lane is not punishable with the way that the map is set up right now with Kael on the flank. It's incredible what Waybo Gaming are capable of doing on a comp that we all overlooked. It's these crazy picks that are working out for this team with the hands to back it up.
And it's the players that we are looking to have their staple LPL series. You know, always looking for that series that defines the career of players that we look back on. And it's guys like Zika right now and Arha that are coming up big for this Waybo team. You see Zika get out of a bot lane excursion there from Flandra. Push going to continue as Elk sidesteps a death sentence, and they'll look to knock down more turrets with a push from Xiaohu on the top side.
Xiaohu has been pushing this entire game. His side lane prowess has been phenomenal. It's really going to be impossible to try and stop both of these as he's looking for a kill in the Shanks.
My God, Shanks. Oh my God, Kael! Where did he go? Xiaohu's gonna get Shanks as well. It's 2 immediate kills. This is the final moment. Elk puts the dagger into the hearts of AL, showing that the gap at the AD carry department is far and wide. But maybe the series gap is just what really extends from end to end as Waybo find kill after kill, and it's only Tarzan left up. It's only the Split 1 MVP, one of the best the LPL has to offer, as he has to watch his Split 1 crumble to a short finish under the mighty grip of the new look Waybo. Shock and awe to the LPL. Waybo Gaming will end AL season with a 3-1 series win.
Waybo Gaming are better. That's it. Tagline, end of story. One team showed up here today looking to outplay the other, and they succeeded. Waybo Gaming do what was impossible for this team last year. They do what was impossible for anyone's legend last year, and they knock off the #1 seed here in the LPL to get themselves one series away from finals and from representing this region at the First Stand International Tournament. Nobody believed in Waybo. Nobody believed in these players, and here they are, 3 wins away from being an international representative.
And there you get to see the real dagger. Xiaohu taking the captain's gem of Shanks and adding it to our trophy as a marker and an insignia of this major moment. Victory to Waybo Gaming. They don't care about their highest finish in the last 14 months came in. They care about keeping this Cinderella run alive, as they'll be one series away from an LPL finals. They'll be one series away from an international debut that has been starving this organization for far too long.
I mean, Waybo were known as the shock and awe team of the LPL for so long. They were the team that was always like, it doesn't matter what they look like in the regular season. They're going to figure it out. It doesn't matter if the Shy is on the team. It doesn't matter if Tarzan is on the team or no longer on the team. That reputation precedes them in terms of who this org is at their core. And once again, it's the ability to rise to the occasion in the biggest of moments at the beginning of the year that really prevail for a Waybo team that again, it wasn't just us that doubted them. Everyone doubted them coming into this series. There were people after their loss against Billy early on in the tournament that thought they were going to lose to Top Esports. They go to 5 in that series. They had an easier time with AL here today because of their game plan and their execution. I'm just proud of this team, regardless of what happens in the next series against JDG. They have proven beyond belief that they are one of the teams to watch here in the LPL.
Yeah, and what really does it for me, K-Man, is through a lot of those like big regular season series wins, we had those like huge Elk 1v9 moments. I was a merchant of this too, right? Saying, yes, this team has like a super high ceiling because Elk might be able to just carry his team on his own. That was not the case here. Elk plays well. Elk gets back to better ways, but I would find it hard-pressed outside of spots in Game 3 to not grade every single member of this Waybo roster positively off of this series.
No one let this team down in Game 5. I can say that confidently. There was absolutely no one where it's like, well, if you had played a little better, it would have been easier. They needed to play perfect across the board with the comp that they had drafted for themselves, and they go out there and do it. I mean, even the players that don't get as much highlight from us, I mean, we talked about Arha a lot throughout game number 4. He had an unbelievable good series, especially on the Enchanters. But Xiaohu in the side lanes, he took, what, 4 or 5 turrets throughout that game by himself, just completely 100%. Controlling the entire map? I mean, this was a gap from everybody on the side of Waybo Gaming. You can't point to anybody and say that they got outplayed here today.
No, I mean, Zika taking over for Breathe was that one dragon fight where it was ever so close. Like him and Xiaohu over the wall constantly with those dashes. That Aurora big ults, like those big ult spots. Playing the Aurora into Flandra of all people, who I feel like really piloted the first couple phases we saw of Aurora top in 2025. Like the gall and gumption to do it. It's awesome. We always, come into playoffs hyping up big teams like the big 3, and it was ever apparent in 2026. Like that was the big. This is like a bigger year than most that we talk about it, but it's always so cool to see. To see this damage chart. Holy moly, Elk! But it's so cool to like think back to last year, K-Man, where we were in a similar spot. I feel like I'll never forget Split 2 playoffs, where it was just like, yeah, AL's really good. BLG's really good. Like, Top Esports was the JDG of this year. And what do we get? We got a WE run all the way through the lower bracket. Now we got our Waybo team doing it. Like you said, when everyone thought they were done after their loss to BLG.
Oh, I'm just so happy for Waybo Gaming. It feels like these players have been doubted for so long. I think you're especially looking at someone like Jeje, who was unbelievably good here today. There is no doubt that there was a jungle gap in this series, and it was in favor of Waybo. And you're looking at a player that needed to step up. He picks Warwick in game number 4. How many smites did he land on 50-50s today? Like, 4?
He didn't lose a single one, K-Man. He didn't lose a single one.
And this is a guy who was benched at the end of Split 2 last year, who was taken off of a team, that wanted to try and compete for Way. Absolutely astounding to see what he's been capable of doing. Again, I think everybody on this team has really been doubted at some point. Zika is in the top 3. This guy was in Group Nirvana all of last year. Like, all of last year. He played for LNG, the worst team in the league, throughout a majority of last year. This guy's top 3.
Arha got benched to bring back Hong, who then got swapped for Crisp in Split 3. And Waybo, for the first time, like you mentioned, didn't do that like Cinderella run in the regional qualifiers, Cinderella run through Split 3 play. Like, it's just awesome. Like, the redemption stories. Even for Elk, right? Like, a guy who you've called like some of the best hands in the world, has won 3 domestic titles, nearly won a couple world championships. He gets replaced by Viper, and it's just so many guys on Waybo that like people left a sour taste in their mouth, like discrediting them, calling them washed or lesser forms of what they used to be or not good enough. Now, you know what, they can point to this series.
How much of an underdog do you have to be when you talk about players that need to prove something, and Xiaohu is who you mentioned last? Like, how many underdogs do you have to have on your team for that to be the case for Waybo Gaming? Like truly, everybody on this team had something to prove in this series to showcase that they belong at the top of the standings and that they believably should be a team that you have to consider for being an international representative. Look, JDG is a very good team, and I think it's realistic to say that they're going into the next series as favorites against Waybo. they're not massive favorites. Like, it is not an upset if Waybo ends up winning that series and walking their way into first stand, into the finals. That's the way they played here today. They outclassed an Anyone's Legend team that, you know, everybody thought was going to be able to run these playoffs, represent the region. They ended their split, and now they're taking their place in that semifinals to see if they can make it work and get to that top 2 spot.
You know, for how much everybody likes to meme on first stand is like the like bubble title of the NBA, like the Mickey Mouse tourney. It's the bane of AL's existence, man. 2 years in a row, AL come up short and don't make first stand. Just saying. Facts are facts, people. I am a journalist at heart, here to present. All right, K-Man, let's present the glorious updated playoff bracket that has been completely shattered from our expectations. Soak it all in, folks. Your next series, whether you expected it or not, for the last spot at first stand, for the honor to play BLG in the Split 1 Grand Finals, JD Gaming, Waybo Gaming.
And it really couldn't be two more different organizations. JDG going all in this year in terms of, you know, bringing over the best talent from the LCP last year, and Junjia and Hong Q, and, you know, getting Gala on this team, young, you know, potential players like Xiao Shu and like Vampire. Like, obviously they are expected to be in this spot in terms of the talent they brought in, and Waybo, who essentially bought low on 5 players and are making this big run. You know, it's going to be such a fun series to watch. I think that there are multiple avenues where you could say that Waybo has an advantage in this particular matchup. I think JDG's team fights, as you pointed out in the pre-show, have been phenomenal for this team. But we saw today, even with comps that aren't specifically built to win in those 5v5s, Waybo, no slouch in the late game either if they can get to that spot. Super excited to see how this plays out.
Cannot wait to watch that. That will happen, I believe, tomorrow night, I believe. Yep. I know there's... Well, I think we take 1 day off before Grand Finals, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yes,
we'll have to see about that. K-Man, I know we don't usually get like the player of the series, player of the game here. So I'd like to put the onus on you. Give me a player of the game, game 4, and then your player of the series.
Player of the game is tough for that one. Honestly, I think it probably should go to Elk on the Corki for just the sheer damage he was doing in those late game fights. Arha, I think, deserves a lot of credit. I don't know, man. Part of me wants to give it to the dog, if you know what I mean? Just
I know
for the experience. I'm saying right now, though, to me, no question, Jeja, to me, is player of the series. I don't feel like there's... I think Elk had a phenomenal series as a whole, but they don't win today without Jeja being better than Tarzan, and that is the reason they're moving on to the top 3.
I like that pick. I like those picks. So there you have it, K-Man. You know, honestly, I value K-Man's opinion more on player of the series than most anyway. So I'm glad we got that one. But our players of the stream are 2 people that I'd very quickly like to shout out, and that thank you goes to our Elite Coffee supporters. So thank you very much to our Elite Coffee supporters, that being Aaron Soup and Mong. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast of crew who strive to give you an LPL English product every darn day of the year. And guys, boy, do we stick to that counter pretty standardly. Except for tomorrow. I misled you guys. We take 1 break, then we get that lower bracket final, and then the day after, our Split 1 Grand Final. So that are the 2 remaining broadcasts from LPL English for Split 1. Hopefully you can take some time to digest and react to the biggest series of the playoffs so far. Waybo taking the 3-1 upset over Anyone's Legend. K-Man, I know you and I will be a part of a... I'll just say a part of a future project for Split 1, so we'll be back on camera. But final thoughts, my friend, on our last cast, both of us, of Split 1.
An unbelievable split. I cannot believe we got to end on such a high note, Slayer. It was a true pleasure for my first double Group Ascend series to be the last one of the split for me, but I am happy to have, again, ended on such a high note and to have had such a fantastic split in general, to have gotten the pleasure to cast.
It's a pleasure, as always, Mr. Encyclopedia of LOL Esports. Shout out to K-Man. Shout out to our production team behind the scenes. It's been an absolute pleasure, y'all. Make sure to tune in, not tomorrow night, not tomorrow morning, wherever you are. Take a 1-day rest, and then we'll have JD Gaming versus Waybo Gaming for a spot in the LPL Grand Finals, the final spot at first stand for the LPL. But until then, take care, get some rest, and we'll see you back here for some more LPL action.